Complete Beast Wars Transformers. Lore explored. We can never be too tired of Transformers content, and Beast Wars was the perfect addition to the rich lore of this fascinating universe. Released in September 1996, the series had a moderate run of 3 years, concluding its third season in May 1999. It is the first Transformers series featuring computer-animated characters and one of the earliest patrons of CGI cartoons. The series was also released in Japanese format and enjoyed worldwide popularity. The series takes on a similar plot device, but it's not Autobots versus Decepticons, but Maximals versus Predicons. In this video, we will take you through everything that takes place around this intense battle and the lore surrounding the show. And if you want more of this cartoon awesomeness, make sure you subscribe to our channel.
I'm stuck!
Rattrap, help Cheetor! We'll cover you!
Season 1 Beast Wars, Part 1. Somewhere deep in space, a portal opens up, releasing 2 starships, one chased by the other. Both the fleeing Predicon warship and the pursuing Maximal exploration vessel carry battle marks. While the 2 ships engage, they are caught in the gravitational pull of a nearby planet, and both ships crash onto the surface, but in different locations. However, before crashing, the exploration ship Axelon releases several stasis pods containing Maximal protoforms that are left to orbit the planet. The Predicon computer informs Megatron, the Predicon boss, that the mystery planet has too much Energon, but it can quickly rot the original robot forms, so Megatron orders a quick scan for transformation. The scan picks up dinosaur fossils, as well as tiny creatures like spiders and wasps, whereas a similar scan of the Maximal ship goes over cheetahs, rhinos, rats, and gorillas. The Maximals playfully bicker among themselves as they check their new animal forms, and even take up new names, but Optimus Primal reminds them that the crew should carefully transform, as too much exposure to Energon will damage them, whereas Energon is something they need to power up. Rhinox further points out that the Transwarp portal enables travelling through space and time. With the animals in sight, there's no doubt the planet is Earth, but the 2 moons pose a question that needs to be answered. Now, to give you more context, the Predicon are descendants of the Decepticons, and Megatron is the namesake of the original Transformer villain. Megatron has stolen the ship Darkseid, which has a transwarp device. Meanwhile, the Maximals are the descendants of the Autobots and are led by Optimus Primal, who appears as a gorilla. The situation is a lot different in the Predicon ship, where First Officer Dinobot calls Megatron stupid and a loser. He challenges the T-Rex Megatron, who in retaliation laughs it off and has Scorponok blast off Dinobot. Megatron doesn't waste time as he sends the crew to find and destroy the Maximals. It's revealed that the Maximals were chasing the Predicons as they have stolen the Golden Disc, which can help them look for places that have Energons. As Rattrap complains, Cheetor decides to hang out with fellow cheetahs and runs off despite Optimus's protest. Cheetor's action hilariously backfires as the cheetahs freak at witnessing a talking cheetah and a robot in disguise. The poor cheetahs are probably having a bad day as they freak out for the second time when they come across Waspinator. Cheetor realizes the truth and engages Waspinator, while all the firing attracts the attention of the rest of the Maximals. They head out to help Cheetor, and soon Megatron and his troop of Predicons arrive. Optimus Primal tries out a futile peace talk, but Megatron assures him that the Predicons are biding their time and still harbour the desire for a galactic invasion. The groups transform as they get into a fight, and yes, it is still exciting to watch. The Predicons activate with Terrorize and the Maximals Maximize. The CGI effect definitely gives it a better edge, but the animal forms could have been much better. During the fight, Scorponok's missile traps Cheetor's leg under a boulder. Optimus orders Rattrap to assist Cheetor, but being a rat, he refuses, so Optimus volunteers to do the job. Optimus is injured as he frees Cheetor. Rhinox also forces Rattrap to provide for cover fire, and the group heads for their base. It was a wise decision after all, as the Energon buildup forces the Predicons to transform back into animals. On their way back, Optimus confronts Rattrap for disobeying orders, and although they reconcile, a new threat appears in the form of Dinobot, who challenges Optimus to a fight as he wants to be the Maximals' leader.
Admit defeat! Maximal.
Beast Wars Part 2. When Dinobot challenges Optimus Primal, the Maximal leader tries to talk it out, but Dinobot is adamant about the fight and has a clear ambition. However, it takes only 2 strikes for Optimus Primal to take down Dinobot, but he refuses to finish off the challenger as per the rules set by Dinobot. The Dinobot seems honourable but truly delusional to think that he would be accepted as the leader of the Maximals. Dinobot has changed his settings with the Maximal transformation call in anticipation, making us believe he might be a nutcase. But he still takes the chance to strike back, and as the duo fights, Cheetor gets eager to join the fight, and yet Rhinox and Rattrap stop him. Megatron and his Predicons also notice the fight and find it the perfect opportunity to take them both out. The Predicons transform and attack, but Optimus Primal transforms back to beast mode and saves Dinobot, who is almost about too short due to overexposure to Energon. The rest of the Maximals transform, albeit Rattrap needed some coercion to fight back. The Maximals save each other and even Dinobot, whereas the missiles thrown by Predicons hit a mountain, exposing raw and natural Energon. The Predicons head out to obtain the Energons, and so do the Maximals. This episode is a special one in the Transformers saga, as it is the 100th episode in the G1 era. However, the writers of the show originally did not want Beast Wars to be a sequel to the Transformers 1984 series. The Predicons head toward the mountain, and Megatron dreams of winning the war against the Maximals. On the other hand, the Maximals notice a plane of land and a Stonehenge-like structure, but before they can ponder, Pterosaur and Waspinator attack. An airborne Optimus fires a shot, weakening them, and Dinobot charges after. However, when a piece of rock gets accidentally hit and almost falls on Rhinox, Rattrap assumes Dinobot as a traitor. Optimus breaks them apart, and soon after, the 2 factions meet in their beast form on top of the Energon mountain. The 2 groups fight in their beast form until Megatron severely damages Optimus's leg and attempts to blow him up with a missile. Diverts the missile with his tail, but it hits one of the mountains and the unstable Energons blow in a massive explosion while Megatron shorts out. Dinobot reminds Optimus that they are now even, and saving him won't mean he is loyal. Rattrap wishes to go home, but Optimus Primal notes that for now they should keep the war limited to the mysterious planet and call it Beast Wars. The web. Rhinox has created a new comlink that can work within long ranges without being affected by Energon interferences. Cheetah volunteers to test it out, and although Optimus Primal has faith in him, Rhinox is doubtful. Rhinox is right, as Cheetor hears an explosion, reports it to Optimus, and goes to investigate despite Optimus's protest. Cheetor finds Scorponok in his beast form, trying to pull a mega cannon out of the rubble. Cheetor reports it to Optimus and transforms to get the mega cannon from Scorponok, while Tarantulas creeps in from Cheetor's back. Scorponok uses the element of surprise to blast off Cheetor and leaves. Optimus Primal scans the desert and finds a severely damaged Cheetor. This follows in what seems like a dream sequence, where Cheetor finds himself at Cybertron and fighting Megatron, Pterosaur and Waspinator. Cheetor wins, but suddenly Tarantulas and Scorponok appear, taking him out until he wakes up inside Axelon, all repaired. The dream sequence features the Decepticon plane Starscream, which is the first direct reference to the Transformers, 1984. Optimus Primal shares his disappointment with Cheetor for not following orders and for damaging Rhinox's comlink. However, it doesn't seem to have taken much effect, as when Optimus leaves to consult with Dinobot, Rattrap teases Cheetor, and he runs away to take matters into his own hands. Rhinox realizes this won't end well and forces Rattrap to go after Cheetor to stop him from doing something foolish. While Scorponok and Pterosaur install the recovered mega cannon, Cheetor spies on them. However, once again, Tarantulas pulls him into an underground tunnel. Cheetor wakes up for the second time to find himself stuck in a stasis web inside a dark cave. Tarantulas explains that the web will drain his body out of its energy fluid, keeping the flesh intact. While Tarantulas waits for his meal to be ready, Rattrap arrives at the place and finds the underground cavern. Meanwhile, at Axelon, Optimus, Dinobot and Rhinox discuss their next course of action. while examining the holomap of Predicon base. Dinobot wants to attack the Predicons, but Optimus intends to follow a clearer strategy. Optimus asks about Rattrap, and Rhinox keeps covers for Rattrap and Cheetor. The original idea of the Rattrap was to be more damaged and disabled. It was intended to be a tragic character, overcoming his limitations, but was later cancelled, as designing the organic innards was difficult. Rattrap transforms and engages Tarantulas, but the Predicon turns on his heat scanners. Rattrap fools him with a hot box and blasts him off. He tries to shut down the machine trapping Cheetor, but ultimately resorts to blowing it up. As Rattrap rescues Cheetor and attempts to flee, Tarantulas sends a missile that hits the stasis web instead and blows up the entire cavern, which collapses on poor Tarantulas. Clearly, with Megatron doing the same earlier, these boys don't have much sense of their surroundings. After reaching Axelon, Rattrap keeps on the charade in front of Optimus Primal, but later threatens Cheetor not to repeat his mistakes. A grateful Cheetor promises to himself to mend his ways.
Cat's got a scat!
Equal measures. As Optimus Primal watches the weather in the mountains, he worries and shatters a cliff, revealing a large deposit of Energon. Optimus radios his team to abandon the mission, but the storm interference messes up the message. At Axelon, the team was preparing to install Energon monitoring devices designed by Rhinox. Cheetor also toys with one of Dinobot's inventions, a time bomb, and drops it accidentally, only for Optimus Primal to catch it. As Optimus cancels the mission, the team gets dejected, and mostly Cheetor. Dinobot tries to utilize the situation to fulfill his own agenda. He manipulates Cheetor into leaving the base with the monitoring devices. Dinobot points out that Optimus treats Cheetor like a child, and that with his speed, Cheetor is the perfect one to outrun the storms. The ruse works, and Cheetor heads out and starts planting the devices in his mecha form. However, a bolt of sudden lightning throws him off, and the apparatus gets accidentally stuck on an area filled with energons. The charge on the machine makes it difficult for Cheetor to pull it out, and when another bolt of lightning hits the device, Cheetor gets teleported to the Predicon base control panel. Pterosaur scans the surroundings and gets startled but recovers and welcomes Cheetor to the dark side. The line was so much misinterpreted by fans that the Predicon base came to be known as Darkside. Pterosaur transforms to give a fight but gets accidentally teleported. Cheetor mans the hover platform of the Predicons but gets pursued by Scorponok and Waspinator. Meanwhile, Pterosaur gets teleported to the Axelon control panel and Dinobot finds him. Dinobot notices that the control panel has turned into a teleporting machine and starts manipulating Pterosaur to form an alliance and rule both factions together. However, after figuring out how the teleportation works, Dinobot flushes out Pterosaur and soon faces Optimus Primal, who asks him about Cheetor. Back at the Predicon base, Cheetor continues running away from Waspinator and Scorponok as they try to blast him or burn him. Cheetor momentarily gets time at the control panel and finds out that both the bases are at opposing ends, sharing the same Energon vein, so blowing up one base would be blowing up the other. Cheetor wisely records it in what looks like a floppy disk and teleports it to Axelon. Simultaneously, Dinobot again manipulates Optimus, making him believe Cheetor sacrificed his life by entering the enemy base. As per story editor Bob Forward, Dinobot is a descendant of Grimlock from the Transformers 1984 series. Dinobot also teleports his time bomb, and as soon as the floppy is gone, the bomb appears at Predicon base. A Pterosaur brings Megatron to show him how Cheetor has infiltrated. However, with the bomb ticking, Cheetor pleads with Megatron to let him detach the bomb from the control panel. Cheetor flings the bomb to Pterosaur, who releases it, but still gets partially scorched. Cheetor also escapes through the control panel before Megatron shoots at it and destroys it. In Axelon, Cheetor playfully apologizes to everyone, and although the Maximals are happy and pleased with Cheetor's action, Dinobot gets annoyed. Chain of command. It's time the Maximals investigate the standing stones, and Optimus Primal points out this couldn't be a natural formation. They further detect the presence of Energon crystals beneath a pile of stones. However, before they could retrieve anything, the Predicons appeared, and Pterosaur was the first to attack the Maximals. This was a stupid move as it destabilized the crystals, and Megatron was the first to order his friends to transform and head back. The Maximals also transform and take cover as the energy builds up and blows up the crystals. It also sends a beacon of light through space, and it travels through another transwarp. The message is soon answered as an alien pod, looking like a stasis pod, enters the atmosphere and places itself on the standing stones. Optimus Primal and Dinobot return to the place and are attacked by Waspinator, Pterosaur, and Megatron. However, the probe releases energy, which vanishes Optimus into the air and sends the rest of the robots right in front of their bases. When Dinobot wakes up inside Axelon, he is shocked to see the Maximals surrounding him and then remembers everything. He informs the crew about Optimus's seeming destruction. However, this causes a leadership gap among the Maximals. Dinobot tries to take over leadership, and when Rattrap protests, he suggests a challenge, but Rhinox breaks them apart and suggests the traditional Maximal method taking a vote. This is one of the rarest of episodes that feature shadows, as they were seemingly difficult to draw. It's also important as it's the first time a major plot point is introduced into the story. The vote is surprisingly equal, as both the candidates get 2 votes each. However, the confusion is sorted when Optimus calls from inside the probe. He explains being alive in consciousness while his body is being examined by the probe. Optimus further puts Rattrap in charge, and Rattrap's time to shine appears soon enough as the Predicons attack Axelon, believing Optimus to be dead. During the battle, Dinobot engages Megatron in a 1-to-1 battle, and it's rather satisfying to watch Megatron getting continuously punched. However, with the rest of the Predicons continuously shooting at the ship, Rattrap gets worried about the shield. He orders Dinobot to restore the shield circuitry, but Dinobot is too invested in his fight and refuses. This is Rattrap's first major breakout point, as he takes a risk by running towards the ship and restoring the shield. With Dinobot also beating Megatron, the Predicons retreat, but Dinobot apologizes to Rattrap as he feels his actions were dishonorable. When the Maximals arrive by the probe to rescue Optimus, the Predicons return and once again attack. Waspinator tries a sneak attack on Rhinox, only for Rhinox to watch his reflection and fry up Waspinator. But as the Predicon hits one of the stones, it is revealed that the standing stones are one big machine connected to the probe. The probe opens up and Optimus Primal materializes, fresh and new. He shoots off the Predicons in one go, who has to retreat again. But before Optimus can probe the probe, it disappears into thin air. Power Surge. The Earth-like mystery planet serves the Predicons well, as Pterosaur munches on a large bird. He finds a floating mountain with a large reserve of Energon, but starts to short out as soon as he transforms. Pterosaur still tries to grab a sample for examination and finds the Energon surging through his body and getting absorbed. Considering himself to be invincible, Pterosaur jets towards their base to take down Megatron. Cheetor watches him from afar and follows. He soon witnesses Pterosaur challenging Megatron and taking him down. Pterosaur turns Megatron to scrap, and the rest of the terrified Predicons submit to him. However, before he can command, Pterosaur finds his circuits shorting out. He makes an excuse, transforms back to beast mode, and leaves to recharge. While Tarantulas secretly follows Pterosaur, the second in command Scorponok leads Waspinator to recover Megatron. On the other hand, a truly bewildered Cheetor rushes back to base and informs the DEET to his team. Since one of the prime aspects of the Transformer shows is selling the Hasbro toys, you might find it interesting that early versions of Beast Wars toys had disgusting organic features on weapons or robots, and some even got featured in the cartoon. The best example is Cheetor's Gut Gun, which features the cheetah's intestines. Now, with Cheetah's information, the Maximals scan the area and the mountain, realizing that the massive Energon can be enough to levitate the mountain. Optimus takes Rattrap and flies to the mountain to destroy it before it can become a power source for the Predicons. Meanwhile, a very weak Pterosaur recharges himself while Tarantulas climbs the mountain, seeking to get the power for himself and rule the Predicons. However, the Maximals arrive first, and while Optimus engages the charged-up Pterosaur to distract him, Rattrap sets up charges to destroy the mountain. Rattrap gets jumped on by Tarantulas, which is something the Spider Transformer seemingly loves doing, yet Rattrap proves stronger and fights back while both are in their beast mode. However, the show was not without controversy, as several fans didn't like Transformers to transform into animals and not vehicles. The protesters used the tagline, "Truck not monkey," and yet the show reinvigorated a dying toy brand. On the other hand, Pterosaur's energy again runs out, and he flies away as the Pteranodon, but the charges explode before he can recharge. Rattrap also succeeds in throwing tarantulas from the cliff, and the blast takes him away. An injured Optimus Primal returns to Rattrap in his beast form as he cannot transform for a while. Optimus jumps off with Rattrap on his shoulder and lands on top of a tree's branches. Fallen comrades. When an orbiting stasis pod plummets toward Earth, both the Maximals and the Predicons plan to get it first. However, Megatron uses his wits to ambush the only flyer, Maximal, before they reach for the stasis pod and make the protoform a Predicon. Meanwhile, in Axelon, Dinobot insists that the Predicons will play dirty and Optimus must heed caution. However, clouded by emotions, Optimus Primal barely hears him out. Dinobot's initial scan shows nothing, but as soon as Optimus heads out, he is blasted by Waspinator and Pterosaur. Dinobot manages to crush Waspinator, but Pterosaur rescues him and flees. Optimus survives, but is unable to fly or even go on foot. Megatron is disappointed to learn that Optimus Primal is alive but sets a new plan, wherein he sends Pterosaur and a now recovered Waspinator after the fallen pod, while he decides to lead the others in attacking Axelon, which is now manned by only Dinobot and an injured Optimus. Rattrap, Cheetor and Rhinox run towards the northern sector in their beast form to retrieve the pod, when Rhinox explains that if the pod is damaged, the protoform may get exposed to the Energon, which may prove dangerous for survival. This almost happens as the protoform tries to exit the pod, but stays inside as it gets exposed to too much Energon. On the other hand, the Predicons on the mission notice the Maximals running and attack them. The Predicons also destroy the Oni ice bridge, leaving the Maximals to take a longer journey. Rattrap radios Axelon and informs it to Dinobot, who passes on the information to the consciousness of Optimus Primal. Based on Optimus's suggestion, Dinobot sets up a laser transmission that can bounce off the moon. The mystery planet has 2 moons, and as the show creators were not sure whether the planet was a prehistoric Earth or a completely different one. However, before Dinobot can activate the signal, Megatron approaches him and offers to deliver Axelon to him, and Dinobot can be his second in command. Dinobot refuses and attacks, but Tarantulas and Scorponok attack him. Dinobot still manages to activate Axelon's auto-weapons, which blast off the Predicons and force them to retreat. Megatron then decides to head towards the pod instead. A damaged Dinobot completes setting up the transmitter. It starts a scan, and a white tiger falls under it. Now completely repaired, Optimus Primal sends Dinobot to the CR chamber and leaves for the pod. Meanwhile, the Predicons arrive first and start opening the pod while 2 white tigers watch. The Maximals also arrive and try to stop them, but Megatron arrives, and he threatens to kill the white tigers if the Maximals don't stand down. The Maximals are forced to put their weapons down, but the Predicons are in for a surprise as they find the pod empty, and one of the white tigers turns out to be Tigatron, a new Maximal. The Maximals rejoice and attack together, with Optimus joining them now, and the Predicons are forced to flee. However, Tigatron informs that his identity circuits are damaged by Energon, and he needs to stay with his animal kind until it recovers. Also informs that the willingness to sacrifice their lives enabled Tigatron to realize what Maximals stood for. The Maximals leave after positioning Tigatron as a scout, and Optimus promises to meet again. Double Jeopardy. With the help of Rattrap's guidance, Optimus Primal and Dinobot explore one of the coldest regions of the planet to obtain the latest landing stasis pod. However, it's lodged overhead, and the Predicons get to it first. Pterosaur and Scorponok attack while Waspinator flies away with the pod. Optimus tries to fly after them, but he is shot down, and Dinobot argues that they are betrayed. Back at Axelon, the team extrapolates that someone must be ferrying the information, as there have been quite a few instances of such ambushes. Dinobot alleges that Rattrap is the one selling the information, and shockingly, Optimus Primal agreed. He takes Rattrap for a personal conversation, which soon blows up into an argument, and Optimus sends Rattrap to a lava pit to look for Energons. At the Predicon ship, Tarantulas sets a scan on black spiders and transforms the protoform into a female Predicon Blackarachnia. Megatron speaks out our thoughts when he wonders if Tarantulas had some ulterior motive to transform the protoform into another spider. Clearly, Tarantulas wanted a mate, and this was a rather unorthodox way to find one. Megatron further eavesdrops on Rattrap's radio call to his teammates and sends Pterosaur to finish him off. Rattrap is easily defeated, but once again, to everyone's shock, he asks for mercy and changes into a Predicon. Pterosaur returns to base with his lieutenant Rattrap, who zaps Megatron unconscious. Pterosaur assumes leadership, but the rest of the Predicons are unwilling to trust Rattrap, so both he and Megatron are imprisoned. Several actors in this series have voiced multiple roles. For instance, Rattrap, Dinobot, Waspinator, and yet-to-be-introduced characters like Silverbolt are voiced by Scott McNeil. Rattrap escapes the prison and the hot lava pit in his Transformer form and encounters a common rat, who shows him the way. Rattrap overhears the team arguing and comes across the Predicon console. He discovers a maximal computer chip inside it, which allows the Predicons to tap into maximal radio. Rattrap removes the chip, but accidentally activates an alarm when he trips onto another one of Tarantula's nets. Tarantulas was about to consume the normal rat, but let it go to heed the alarm. Rattrap cuts through the rope, and when he tries to get inside the cage, Tarantulas notices him. However, Rattrap subdues him with a single shot and sends an alert to Optimus. The Maximals attack, and Pterosaur freaks out when Megatron appears, but still tries to lead rather foolishly. Rattrap is freed based on Pterosaur's orders and shoots Optimus to prove his loyalty. But when Dinobot tries to attack him, Megatron stops Dinobot. Rattrap finally shows where his true loyalty lies and blasts off Pterosaur's head. Blackarachnia goes missing while the Maximals retreat with Rattrap in tow. Later, it is revealed that Rattrap's betrayal was a part of the entire operation. Guerrilla warfare. Optimus Primal comes across a rare plant and gets intrigued, but Dinobot would rather be strategizing or blowing up Predicons. Optimus tries to make Dinobot understand the importance of learning about all life when Scorponok attacks them. While Dinobot is temporarily stuck between rocks, Scorponok shoots a robotic bee that latches itself onto Optimus's chest. But Optimus is able to shoot Scorponok before he falls, and the Predicon falls into a waterfall. While Optimus recuperates in the CR chamber, the rest of the Maximals analyze his condition. It shows that the bee has a viral mine, and Dinobot immediately recognizes it as Scorponok's invention. Dinobot explains that Scorponok probably intended to use the virus to turn the Maximal leader into a cowardly creature. However, removing the bee is impossible without killing Optimus or blowing up the surroundings. But luck is probably not in Scorponok's favor, as it turns Optimus Primal insanely angry and violent. The sane part of Optimus's mind requests his teammates to lock him up. The youngest of the group, Cheetor, gets upset seeing Optimus all locked up and in pain, which helps Optimus convince Cheetor to let him out. Optimus suggests he can use the viral mine against the Preds and also obtain the antivirus that's surely with Scorponok. The rest of the team doesn't agree to such a risky plan, but an enraged Optimus starts shooting at things at random. Rhinox and Cheetor try to hold him down, but to no avail. Optimus Primal escapes to take on the Predicons by himself. Cheetor decides to join him for backup, but Dinobot wisely suggests that they should think what old Optimus would have done. The Predicons, being unaware of the virus malfunctioning, remain jubilant, and Megatron assumes that Optimus will send his team to retrieve the antivirus. Megatron is, of course, in for a shock, as Cheetor calls the Predicon base and tries to negotiate, but this only warns the Preds. Soon, Optimus attacks the Predicon base and takes down Tarantulas. Next, he throws away Waspinator while the rest of the Maximals arrive and fight Blackarachnia and Pterosaur. Cheetah's voice reaches out to Optimus, and he finally confronts Megatron, who teases him about the vial of the antivirus. He doesn't get the chance as Optimus rips the bee from his chest and attaches it to Megatron's back. The idea, of course, came from earlier when a wild plant had similarly attacked Dinobot. Megatron drops the antivirus, but but Cheetor suddenly appears and collects the antivirus, which he administers on Optimus, preventing his spark of life from being out. Meanwhile, Megatron seeks Scorponok's help to get rid of the Cyber Bee, but it's too late and explodes. Later, Optimus recovers well inside Axelon, while Dinobot keeps a watch. Optimus also finds the rare flower beside his bed, which is apparently brought by Dinobot. The probe. With the Axelon missing, Cybertron releases several probes to find the Explorer ship. One of the probes makes it through the transwarp and approaches the mystery planet. The Maximals pick up its signal and try to find a way to send a signal and go back home, but Dinobot is not happy with the developments. Rhinox tries to contact the temporal probe, but it moves out of range. However, the team still finds a way to send a signal, which is by duplicating the Axelon's transwarp signal by the time the probe comes back. The next day, the Maximals begin their construction of the transwarp signal, but in a land that falls under Predicon territory. Optimus Primal assures everyone that Tigatron is keeping a watch and will protect them. Tigatron follows a high-on-sugar waspinator and blasts it off, but it was only a bait laid out by Tarantulas. The Predicons prove as resourceful as the Maximals, as Tarantulas have created a transformation lock lens that entraps Tigatron in his beast mode, making him unable to transform. Tarantulas then uses his Energon web on the Maximal. Cheetor arrives at the location at Optimus's orders, but experiences the same fate. Meanwhile, at the construction site, Dinobot confesses that he is worried about being treated the same way as any other Predicon by Cybertron. Optimus assures him that would never happen. This episode came out of order in the American DVD release for the first season, and is the 9th episode. But Optimus deactivating the Sentinel program before entering the ship suggests this came after, and is actually the 11th episode. Scorponok spies on the Maximals and sends some footage to Megatron. He tries to attack the device but is blasted off by the Maximals, who wait for Rhinox to arrive with the transwarp component. In the Pred's ship, the two cats are caged together while Megatron examines the footage. Cheetor refuses to say anything, but when the Predicons bring up footage of the probe, Cheetor blurts it out. The Preds leave to ambush the Maximals, leaving the two caged felines alone. Tigatron helps Cheetor break the cage and both heads for the restoration chamber so that they can maximize. Meanwhile, the rest of the Maximals get attacked by the Predicons and start falling prey to the transformation lock lens. Optimus Primal is the last to get knocked by the lens, but Rhinox arrives in time just as the probe comes back. However, before he can enter the disc, the lens attacks him, rendering him a rhinoceros. Rhinox drives Optimus to deliver, but Optimus is unable to do so. The temporal lobe returns, but with the Maximals getting defeated, it ruins the vibe. Cheetor and Tigatron arrive to rescue the rest of their mates, but get low hearing the news, and Optimus promises they will retune one day. Victory. Megatron tests out a device that can increase the size and power of Energons. When the experiment fails, he forces his team to get more Energons, but they refuse, and the Predicons get into a massive argument while the Maximals watch from the secret spy cam that they have installed. However, soon, the argument turns violent and leads to the total destruction of the Predicon base. The Maximals visit the Predicon base, but are unable to detect any life. As they venture deeper inside the ship, they find more debris, including some Predicon body part. The sudden death of his past comrades seems to have shaken Dinobot, as he remains unresponsive to all of Rattrap's remarks. Dinobot is a character with layers, and one of his traits is to quote Shakespeare. This episode is the first time he does so, as he quotes Hamlet when remembering Tarantulas. The Maximals also retrieve the star drive components from the Predicon ship to repair Axelon, so that they can finally go back home. However, during the repair, Dinobot shares that he doesn't wish to return to Cybertron and be deemed a criminal. Instead, he will stay forever in this mystery land as a ruler. He bids goodbye to the Maximals and leaves, but a surprise awaits him just in the corner. It appears the Preds had discovered the spy camera, and Megatron had the ingenious idea to stage their own death so that they could make the Maximals repair Axelon and then steal it from them. However, as luck would have it, a wandering Dinobot notices them. The Predicons are forced to come out of their hiding as they transform and chase Dinobot. Meanwhile, Tigatron arrives at Axelon as they prepare to take off. The Maximals also notice Dinobot approaching, followed by the Predicons, who are very much alive. As Dinobot gets shot, Optimus Primal leaves to save him and is joined by Cheetor. Optimus rescues Dinobot and runs towards the ship, which starts to take off. The Preds also run towards it, but the Maximals use Axelon to shoot them off. Cheetor gets on board the vessel, and Optimus is able to throw Dinobot over it, but he has to transform into beast form to avoid shorting. Cheetor also succeeds in holding Optimus, but a shot from Scorponok sends Optimus plummeting back in a very devastating scene resembling a scene from the film King Kong, 1933. But this is not all, as Megatron has somehow sneaked in, and he shoots all the Maximals except Rattrap, who is in beast form. Rhinox still recovers and ejects Megatron out of the ship, but now the ship malfunctions and comes crashing down. As the Maximals hold onto each other and for life, they quote Superman as Optimus Primal saves them like Superman with the theme tune playing in the back. The factions are again back to being stranded on the planet, and with Dinobot and Rattrap bickering, everything seems normal. Dark designs. While on a mission to find Energons, the Maximals find themselves on a very rocky terrain with nothing but scenic beauty to account for, especially since the said Energon is inaccessible. But as usual, they are ambushed by the Predicons, and Optimus Primal gets injured at the very first. Rhinox still makes up for it as he shoots ruthlessly, causing a rock slide and crushing the Predicons with it. Rhinox even assumes leadership as he orders the team to move ahead with Optimus while he stays at the rear. Optimus suggests Rhinox could be a good leader, but Rhinox prefers smelling the flowers. However, his skill and talent don't go unnoticed by Megatron, who starts forming a plan to get the rhinoceros on their side. Soon, Tarantulas traps and captures Rhinox, who is brought to the Predicon ship, and Megatron uses a transmuter machine to turn Rhinox into a Predicon. At the same time, Rattrap tries to radio in Rhinox and overhears the entire thing through his communicator. Rattrap pleads with Optimus to let him go and save his pal, but Optimus surprisingly remains calm as he feels Megatron has brought trouble instead. And Optimus is right, as the red-eyed, demon-like Rhinox starts sabotaging the ship and taking down the Predicons. He crushes Scorponok and dumps him in the recovery chamber. Waspinator goes particularly insane when he gets knocked in the head and calls himself Shrapnel, which Blackarachnia notes is a Decepticon. Again, this is a direct reference to the G1 era. Meanwhile, Pterosaur notices Rhinox's pattern and his plan to overthrow Megatron as the Predicon leader. This concept is again revisited in the sequel series Beast Machines. Pterosaur tries to strike a deal, but evil Rhinox threatens him, whereas Megatron finds his spiders captured and poisoned. Quite an irony, that one. Scorponok finally tells Megatron what's going on, while Optimus explains to his friends that the reprogramming has invigorated Rhinox's aggression. Megatron, Scorponok, and Pterosaur confront evil Rhinox, but he manipulates Scorponok and Pterosaur against each other. Evil Rhinox also gets into a fight with Megatron, who eventually manages to turn back evil Rhinox into a Maximal. At the same time, the Maximals also attack the Predicon base, resulting in an all-out war. At first, the Preds seem to be winning, but Optimus cuts off Megatron's arm, and a stray shot from the crazy Waspinator hits the transmuter, causing it to burst. The Maximals and Predicons escape and take cover. Later, as the Maximals rest, Rhinox jokes about Preds having personality problems. It earns laughs from everyone. Well, except Dinobot. Double Dinobot. Megatron and Scorponok go into Dr. Frankenstein mode as they create a Dinobot clone using a DNA sample of their ex-buddy. The Velociraptor clone also possesses the ability to speak and a copy of Dinobot's mind, but is unable to transform. To enable a smooth transition, Pterosaur lures the real Dinobot inside a cave and buries him with rocks. Megatron then releases the clone, which enters Axelon and tries to convince Optimus Primal to attack a fake Predicon camp. However, Optimus refuses and sends the clone and Rattrap to examine the camp, which is over a lava river. The clone refuses to transform and instead urges Rattrap to lead, but soon he shows the real colours and pushes off Rattrap. Meanwhile, the real Dinobot emerges out of the rubble while Rattrap hangs on to his life as he somehow makes it through the hot, molten lava. The clone returns to Axelon while faking an injury and lies to Optimus about being ambushed. Optimus sends Cheetor to investigate and leaves to save Rattrap, but he activates Sentinel while leaving. Megatron wants to use the clone to power down Axelon's defences and enter the ship, but the clone fails in the task as he does not have the activation code to disable the shield. Instead, the defense proves excellent in shocking the clone every time he enters a wrong code. But the clone is in luck, or maybe not, as the real Dinobot arrives and deactivates the shield to enter. The clone celebrates by thinking of himself as the one deactivating the shield and calls Megatron to visit. On the other hand, Optimus and Cheetor meet at the fake location. They can smell Rattrap and wonder if the worst has happened. However, Rattrap's flexibility and skill help him survive as he climbs the cliff and comes face to face with Optimus and Cheetor. Rattrap tells them how Dinobot tried to kill him, but the worst part is that the clone is alone in Axelon. Megatron using Dinobot's DNA to create clones is a concept that's again revisited in the third and final season of the series. This clone is, however, called Clone 1. Back at the camp, Clone 1 also encounters Dinobot and gets into a scuffle. However, Clone 1, being unable to transform, forces the very honourable Dinobot to fight in beast mode. The fight seems to go against the real Dinobot, but he wins, and when Megatron approaches, he pretends to be the clone. Dinobot activates the shield after Megatron enters so that the defense system takes him out. The Maximals arrive and Megatron retreats, but Rattrap has a hard time believing Dinobot. But with the damages in sight and Dinobot spitting out the skin of Clone 1, it assures everyone that Dinobot is real and, as Optimus points out, totally disgusting. However, this is not the only time Megs has experimented with Dinobot's DNA. Stay with us as we explore more drama surrounding Dinobot and the Maximals. Be prepared to witness what happens when aliens try to blow up the planet, or when our favourite Beast Warriors get super cool metal upgrades. The spark. When an orbiting stasis pod is hit by space debris, it gets slightly damaged and plummets toward the planet like a ball of fire. Tarantulas and Megatron are the first to notice it. And although Tarantulas may still have ulterior motives, Megatron dashes his dreams as he sends Blackarachnia and Scorponok after it. Similarly, Rhinox also notices the descending pod as he examines Energon reserves and races towards the pod alone, as he is unable to contact anyone else. However, Cheetor also noticed the pod and asked Tigatron to be on the alert, as he also left to obtain the maximal protoform. When Rhinox reaches the pod, the Energon deposit on his body is already too great, but he still manages to help open the pod. Unfortunately, Protoform's spark or life force is almost fading. Cheetah reaches the location, and Rhinox explains that the pod needs repairing for the Protoform to survive. Elsewhere, Tigatron is able to find and freeze Scorponok, but Blackarachnia attacks Tigatron from behind, leaving him paralysed by the effects of cyber venom. Back at the crash site, Rhinox suggests he can use a component of Cheetor to save the Protoform, and Cheetor voluntarily deactivates himself to allow extraction. During the process, Cheetor has a premonitory dream where he learns about the concept of spark from Rhinox. After Cheetor wakes up, Rhinox finally installs the chip in the sleeping Transformer. This is the second time Cheetor has experienced a prophetic dream. It is also the first time the concept of spark, a glowing orb depicting Transformer souls, is presented in the Transformer mythos. Although the previous cartoon introduced something called laser core, it didn't leave any impression and was quickly forgotten. While Rhinox rejuvenates the spark, Cheetor combats Blackarachnia, but Cheetor gives her a taste of her own medicine by hitting her with her cyber venom arrow. The Predicon threat still continues as Waspinator arrives, and so does Pterosaur, with Cheetor clearly outnumbered. With Energon surging, Cheetor returns to beast mode and draws out the flyers while Rhinox tries interfacing his own system with the stasis pod. This affects Rhinox's circuitry, and he manages to return to beast mode before passing out. The spark is saved, and the stasis pod starts scanning for compatible life forms. Meanwhile, Cheetor succeeds in frying up Waspinator with a natural Energon geyser, but Pterosaur shoots Cheetor and arrives at the crash site. To make matters worse, the spark is about to terminate as the scan didn't find any compatible life forms. Well, until a Falcon appears. Later, at Axalon, Rhinox and Cheetor introduce Irosaur to the rest of the team. The Trigger. Part 1. A mysterious cloud passes over the snowy mountainside, and a sudden earthquake surprises Tigatron. He uses the local maximal outpost to relay the information. Rattrap answers the call and has a friendly banter when Pterosaur and Waspinator attack. The console falls over Tigatron, but he survives and shoots back. However, the predators continue to be a nuisance, as Pterosaur even shoots a missile, which doesn't work until Waspinator accidentally shoots at it. The explosion causes Tigatron to trip and fall on the moving clouds. The Preds try to look for Tigatron's body parts, but are unable to recover any. As they venture into the cloud, several small blasts seem alarming. Optimus Primal reaches the location and notes the obvious sign of a battle. He calls Axalon through the communication console and reports that Tigatron might be destroyed, where Irosaur keeps her eyes on the returning Predicons and notes that they are quite scorched. The extremely injured flyers tell their boss, Megatron, about the mysterious cloud, which actually houses a floating island. Tigatron was already on board and gave them a fair fight until an obelisk-like structure gathered power and shot at the Predicons. The information appears interesting to Megatron, who decided to obtain the weapon for themselves. He orders Blackarachnia and Scorponok to investigate and obtain the weapon, but says something secretly to Scorponok, attracting Blackarachnia's suspicion. The story of this two-part segment is extremely similar to the Transformers 1984 episode The Golden Lagoon, where a beautiful oasis hosted a strong weapon. Airazor informs the Maximals about the Predicons, and Cheetor soon arrives, bearing news about Blackarachnia and Scorponok moving out. Optimus sends Irosaur to pursue them. Meanwhile, on the floating island, Tigatron examines the different plants when a sigil on a rock is triggered, and it activates the island's defense system. Tigatron decides to play safe, but that will be difficult as the two scouting Predicons arrive, and Scorponok uses his Cyber Bee to witness everything. Tigatron gets hold of the bee and records his own message. The two Predicons arrive at the island, but Scorponok notices Irosaur and shoots her right in front of Tigatron. Tigatron helps Irosaur and assures her she will survive. He also reveals that the Cyber Bee now carries his message to the Maximals of Axalon. As the rest of the Maximals play the message, they realize it's the first sign of alien invasion. Cheetah reaches the location. The Trigger. Part 2. Tigatron feels at home on the floating island and decides to protect it, but the Predicons have different plans. Blackarachnia discovers that the sigils indicate traps, and the obelisk holds the central power of the island. With Airazor still unable to fly, Tigatron carries her on the back, and they too come across a similar trap. Tigatron risks getting attacked as he uses his guns to blow apart rocks and escape from the rock. He explains to Irosaur that the obelisk fires when energy weapons are used. Meanwhile, Optimus Primal carries Rattrap on the back as they head for the island, and even contacts Rhinox at the base to give an update. As Cheetor informs, Waspinator and Pterosaur have recovered, and they attack Optimus and Rattrap. When a shot makes them fall, Optimus recovers by himself and gets his bearings while Rattrap transforms and hitches a ride on Pterosaur, forcing him to fly them to the floating island. Optimus gets rid of Waspinator in the usual way, while Pterosaur ensures Rattrap crashes into a tree before he escapes. Waspinator is actually a female in his beast form, as he carries a stinger, and in the case of toys, he also carries a larvae. We are glad that this tiny detail was not passed on to the cartoons, and especially with Waspinator turning into a comic relief character, we are sure that's not what the writers wanted. Once the Maximals rendezvous on the island, Tigatron explains the island's defenses to everyone. Rattrap wisely posits that they are inside a puzzle, as whoever designed the island wanted to test the intruders. The markings on the obelisk don't suggest otherwise, and the Maximals notice Blackarachnia and Scorponok already heading towards it. As the flyer Predicons approaches, Blackarachnia manipulates Pterosaur into using his energy weapon. As the obelisk fires at the flyers, Blackarachnia notes that it will take time to recharge. She blasts her way into the obelisk and finds alien technology. As Blackarachnia plans on ruling the Transformers, Scorponok attempts to fight back but accidentally falls through a trap. Blackarachnia enters the control room and she gets herself charged up so that she is directly connected to the island. Blackarachnia starts lifting off with the monolith and heads towards the Maximal base. Optimus watches and calls Rhinox, asking him and the others to evacuate. Blackarachnia starts randomly shooting at land and air, which results in Rattrap getting stuck under a boulder. And he urges Tigatron to go, and he finally enters the mountain and confronts Blackarachnia. Rattrap manages to free himself, whereas Tigatron pleads forgiveness as he destroys the island's reactor, sending it tumbling across the plain, with Blackarachnia and her shattered dreams still stuck inside. The fallen obelisk sends a signal into the sky, which bounces off on one of the moons and then into space. Tigatron rues the end of the island and what message it has sent, while Rattrap wonders who received the message and what's their answer. Spider's game. As another stasis pod heads towards the planet, Tarantulas uses a magnetic pulse to submerge both the Predicons and Maximals in darkness. The two factions blame each other for the power failure, but Tigatron notices the stasis pod falling and starts following it when he cannot contact Axelon. Blackarachnia finds out about Tarantulas' secret lair and decodes his plan to create a Predicon that will be only loyal to him. However, to Tarantula's surprise, she not only flirts with him, but also agrees to help him in betraying Megatron. The spider couple reaches the stasis pod before anyone, but it has already completed a scan. Tarantulas replaces the Maximal chip with a Predicon, ensuring that the newbie is on their side. On the other hand, Waspinator pursues Tigatron, and his surprise attack causes Tigatron to hit his head on a rock. Airazor becomes his savior as she takes down Waspinator with a swift move, and Tigatron insists Airazor that she goes after the pod. Back at the pod, the spiders wait for the new Predicon to emerge, but they are thrown back when a large red ant Predicon, Inferno, emerges. Inferno attacks its own team members and starts pacing in front of his stasis pod. Blackarachnia tries to confront him, but Tarantulas stops her as he realizes that Inferno's beast mode is stronger and it's influencing his thoughts. Inferno considers the stasis pod as his colony and is trying to protect it. Tarantulas are further concerned with not damaging the pod. Or when Airazor arrives, Inferno considers her a predator and shoots at her. Blackarachnia takes the opportunity to shoot down Airazor, but as she tries to speak with Inferno, Tarantulas secretly leaves with the stasis pod. Inferno finds his pod missing and sets out looking for Tarantulas, with Blackarachnia following suit. Meanwhile, Tigatron meets Airazor and instructs her to get Optimus. Scorponok notices Tarantulas and informs Megatron, who is now seeking the pod. Showdown begins between Tarantulas and Inferno, where Tarantulas traps the ant. Tigatron also arrives and destroys the pod, but it enrages Inferno. Tigatron starts getting attacked on all fronts, like Blackarachnia, Tarantulas, and even Megatron, who plans on ending Tigatron for good. By this time, Inferno breaks out of Tarantulas' web and is about to kill Tigatron when the Maximals Optimus Primal and Airazor arrive. They break Inferno into pieces, while Scorponok also gets hit by rocks, and the spiders scurry away. The Maximals rescue Tigatron and fly away, as Megatron shoots back in frustration to no avail. He then demands to interrogate and punish the spiders. Blackarachnia confronts Tarantulas about his plan to convert the pod into an escape shuttle and leave the planet. Tarantulas agrees as the planet is doomed, but refuses to let out any more information, forcing Blackarachnia to back away. Tigatron is also restored, and it seems Airazor may have a crush. Call of the Wild. Cheetor tries to hunt a deer but falls into a lava pit only to wake up and realise it's a dream. Is this another of his future-telling visions? However, no time to ponder on it, as the Predicons have attacked Axelon. With the Maximals distracted, Waspinator and Pterosaur steal a component of the ship, but Optimus Primal follows and is again shot down by Megatron. He is saved by Airazor, who takes a hit and is sent to the CR chamber. The others suddenly feel Energon build up even within the ship as the Preds have stolen the rectifier coil, which keeps the Energon shielded. Megatron celebrates as the Maximals are forced to stay in beast modes, as now they can easily strike and win. With not being able to maximize, the Maximals become more animal-like. Surprisingly, all of their dreams are similar to the one Cheetor saw at the beginning of the episode. Optimus gets terrified by glowing eyes in the dark. Dinobot chases hadrosaurs, while Rattrap sniffs places for food like a rat. When the Preds finally leave their base, the Maximals take their much-needed nap, but it turns them more animalistic, and they venture out to hunt for food. Megatron, waiting in the dark, rejoices at the success of his plan, and with much fanfare, the Predicons start their hunt. Megatron targets Optimus Primal, while Dinobot chases Rattrap. In the meantime, Airazor recovers and meets with Tigatron in the empty base as they decide to help their friends. Airazor arrives near the Predicon base, and with much speed, she overcomes the automatic defenses. Once inside, Airazor retrieves the rectifier coil with much ease and heads back. Tigatron also ventures into the forest and collects the mammals by reaching out to their animal mind and instincts. Once Tigatron has assembled the team, he delivers an inspiring speech, urging his friends to embrace both the beast and robot sides so that they can overcome the programming lock. This works, and once again, the Maximals are back to their own self and are ready to hunt back. The Maximals seamlessly transition between their beast and robot modes as they crush and pillage the Pred hunting party. Personally, this has been the best team-up and action sequence in the entirety of Season 1 so far. The Energon also starts to build up in the Preds, and they are forced to retreat. Airazor arrives with the coil, and it appears everything will now be normal. But the Maximals have gained a new skill that's bound to come in handy in the future. Dark Voyage. Maximals, Rattrap, Cheetor, Rhinox and Dinobot are currently on a mission to mine for Energon crystals. Dinobot feels frustrated to be reduced to a miner and feels his talents are being wasted, and we agree. Soon, their frivolous banter turns into chaos when Scorponok and Waspinator launch a missile on the Energon field. Rhinox transforms and throws the missile away, but it has already triggered the unstable Energon. A massive explosion covers the Maximals with rubble, while the Preds assume they are dead. The explosion looks all too real because a real pyrotechnic explosion was superimposed on the CGI background. However, the Maximals are not unscathed, as the explosion has damaged their circuitry and robotic functions. The Maximals discover that they can't see, but Rhinox suggests they must use other strategies and skills to reach Axelon. Meanwhile, Scorponok and Waspinator report their success to Megatron, who wants proof, and the Predicons decide to collect some. Somewhere in the jungle swamp, Rhinox leads his group when a large snake entwines Cheetor and tries to squeeze the air out of him. Rattrap hears Cheetor's cry for help and blindly bites the snake, which leaves Cheetor but goes after Rattrap. Dinobot comically knocks into a tree and falls down, so it's up to Rhinox to save Rattrap and fling the giant snake away. However, the attack has drawn out almost all the energy from Cheetor, so Rhinox volunteers to carry him. Just like the previous one, this challenge surely helped the Maximals to be more attuned to their beast version and senses. Optimus Primal and Tigatron decide to search for Rhinox and the others as they fail to return in time, whereas Scorponok and Waspinator also choose to follow the Energon trail. And unfortunately for them, Megatron and Tarantulas also notice the Energon trail. They find our group of Maximals crossing a waterfall and in quite a precarious situation. Waspinator takes the lead and shoots the log that the Maximals have been using as a bridge. The Maximals fall in the water but survive, but are again found by the scouting Predicons. The Maximals transform, and Rhinox guides them in imaging the simulated training grid so they can shoot accurately at the Predicons. The sound of the weapons also alerts the Optimus and Tigatron, but before they reach the Maximals, they fall down due to stasis lock. Sometime later, Rhinox is the last to exit the CR chamber, all recovered. Rhinox gets back his vision, while the rest of the team appreciates his efforts in ensuring their survival. Possession. A ferocious storm takes out the power from both the bases, and while the Maximals start stashing their ammos deeper in the ground, the Predicons rely on Waspinator to get the consoles back on. Meanwhile, a ghostly spark hovers around the Maximal base and the Predicons while finally entering the console. As Waspinator beats the console, the spark possesses him, and his voice changes. Pterosaur witnesses this from afar. Waspinator reintroduces himself to Megatron as Starscream, Air Commander of the Decepticon battle fleet and the second in command to the original Megatron. Blackarachnia points out that as per the Chronicles of Cybertron, Starscream was destroyed and the Decepticons lost. However, Starscream claims that he was destroyed by Unicron when defending Galvatron, yet his spark endured and travelled through space and time for years. Starscream also pledges his utmost loyalty to Predicon leader Megatron and wants to be his lieutenant, proving that he can be a good asset in helping Megatron win against the Maximals. The next day, the Preds interrupt the Maximals as they repair their ship, and Starscream's information about the damage Axelon suffered proves invaluable in the attack. Dinobot takes a serious hit, and Optimus orders the Maximals to abandon the ship. However, even with the win, the Preds can't leave their own ship empty. Megatron puts Starscream in charge of Axelon, with Scorponok and Blackarachnia to support him, while the rest of the Preds head back to their own base. Meanwhile, the Maximals regroup in the jungle, where Dinobot is on the way to recovery and tells everyone that he has studied military history, which identifies Starscream as a notorious and treacherous traitor, as Blackarachnia also confronts Starscream. It's revealed that Starscream was actually killed by Galvatron for decepting him. However, being an enigmatic transformer herself, Blackarachnia forges a partnership with Starscream as the duo plans on taking over Megatron and both factions. The Maximals also seem to have developed a plan to use Starscream to betray nature to their own advantage. They approach Axelon to surrender so that the injured Dinobot can be taken to the CR chamber for repair. Starscream agrees, but as soon as Optimus and Dinobot enter, Starscream relieves Optimus of his weapons and imprisons him. Starscream then orders the rest of the Maximals to attack the Predicon base. Scorponok objects, but is blasted off by Starscream and Blackarachnia. On the other hand, Optimus and Dinobot escape and fight it out with Starscream and Blackarachnia, forcing them to retreat. After a short battle, Optimus Primal has Starscream pinned to the ground, but Blackarachnia appears. She shoots at a few clusters of Energon near Starscream's body, and we love how Optimus quotes Terminator as he leaves before the explosion that finally exorcises Starscream out of poor Waspinator's body, which is later assembled by a disgruntled Megatron. Blackarachnia argues that she had to pretend to get more intel, but Megatron is unable to completely trust her. In Axelon, the Maximals complete their repairs, except for Cheetor, who looks into the sky to see Starscream's soul, which still travels through space, swearing to come back for revenge.
I have a hostage.
Why, so you do.
The Low Road. It's gardening time as Rattrap and Dinobot engage in trimming the wild bushes as well as some healthy bickering, which is a usual part of their daily conversation. But today, it turns a little violent as Rattrap shoots a wild bean at Dinobot's butt. As usual, the Predicons attack to disrupt the fun times. Rhinox calls on Rattrap to retaliate, but is forced to go ahead and shoot at the Predicons. It becomes impossible for the Maximals to activate Sentinel, as the fighting pair is still outside. Tarantulas further takes advantage of the situation and shoots a strange weapon that drains suspicious-looking stuff into Rhinox's mouth. Their job is done. The Predicons retreat, although Tarantulas get shot at. Rattrap and Dinobot rush out to help Rhinox inside. Rhinox is put inside the CR chamber, and analysis shows that Rhinox is infected with an Energon virus. Soon, Rhinox starts shooting energy blasts as he sneezes towards the roof, and one of them catches Terror off guard. Since Rattrap and Dinobot are partially responsible for the virus attack, they are sent to obtain the counter-virus that Tarantulas must have. However, the duo still gets into an argument as they follow the trail of Tarantulas. Rhinox is kept on a life support system that's draining Axelon, while his sneezes are making holes in Axelon. Optimus doesn't really care if Rattrap and Dinobot start their own beast war. As for the bickering duo, they are led into a hole and a tunnel by the injured Tarantulas. A scene of Rattrap and Dinobot hanging in the air before falling pays homage to the early Looney Tunes cartoons. The last time this happened was when a blind Dinobot knocked on a tree in Dark Voyage. Unfortunately for Tarantulas, the boulders falling behind the Maximal crush Tarantulas, and he gets dragged around his own lab by the Maximals. This is Scott McNeil's favourite episode in the series, and we can understand why. The fun and quirky element will definitely bring some laughs, and is a welcome change after the several intense plots. Pterosaur informs Megatron about the success of Tarantulas' virus, and Megatron orders more viruses to infect the rest of the Maximals. However, as Tarantulas is missing, Megatron orders the Preds to search in his lab. This spells trouble, and sure enough, Blackarachnia and Scorponok notice the two Maximals dragging an unconscious Tarantulas. On the other hand, Optimus realizes they need to attack the Predicons to obtain the antidote, and Rhinox volunteers to join. Optimus forces Rhinox to stay behind and eat, and the rhinoceros finds the wild beans to be a tasty meal. Back at the lab, Dinobot tries to use Tarantulas as a hostage, which is just as useless as trying peace talk. However, it enables Rattrap to sneak attack. The party is complete as Rhinox sneezes a hole into the lab, allowing the rest of the Maximals to enter. Yet, the battle is not over, as Megatron uses the counter-virus to force the Maximals into turning to their beast mode and surrendering. This backfires, literally, as turning into a rhinoceros affects Rhinox's tummy and his fart blasts off the Predicons. Yes, you heard that right. The episode and writer Bob Forward even became famous for this one. With the Predicons gone, Rattrap grabs the counter-virus as they head back to the base. Sometime later, the Maximals finish off repairing the damages to Axelon, while the counter-virus turns Rhinox's sneezes non-fatal. Law of the Jungle. The episode begins with a classic example of the food chain until it pans on Cheetor and Dinobot, who get attacked by the trigger-happy and completely crazy Inferno. He is further aided by Waspinator and Pterosaur, who are carrying heavy explosives from a nearby mountain stash. Well, to be more precise, Pterosaur tries to attack the Maximals but gets fried himself, while Waspinator waits for his signal, which never comes. Cheetor also calls for backup, and Optimus responds, but the Maximals are not alone, as Tigatron and his friend, the real White Tiger Snowstalker, are lurking nearby and watching the event unfold. Tigatron jumps in to help his friends just as Waspinator finally gets the cue to carry over the explosives, but clearly overestimates his own strength. As Tigatron blasts Inferno, a stray shot passes the crazed ant and hits the mountain stash, causing a rock slide that crushes the innocent Snowstalker. The death of his friend takes a heavy toll on Tigatron, who buries his friend, sheds a tear, and decides to quit the Beast Wars. Dinobot doesn't take the decision well and decides to use his own method to get Tigatron back. Optimus Primal arrives a tad too late, and Cheetor tells him about the entire situation. As for the three Predicons, they regroup to plan another assault on the Maximals. Inferno was initially supposed to be Megatron's second form. It was intended that Meg's T-Rex's body would get destroyed, and he would be reborn as an ant. However, making Inferno a separate character surely paid off. Dinobot stalks Tigatron, and when the tiger confronts him, Dinobot tries to make Tigatron understand why fighting the Beast War is essential for survival. He shows Tigatron how a tiger hunts and feasts on a deer, and explains that Predicons like Megatron have always wanted to conquer the world. Megatron would not stop until one side wins and another loses, but Tigatron argues that peace will only come when one team stands down. The argument goes nowhere, and Dinobot resorts to more violent methods to make Tigatron understand. Ultimately, the appearance of Optimus puts a stop to the rather one-sided fight, and Dinobot accepts his defeat in trying to charge up Tigatron. The episode has several similarities in concept to The Lion King, 1994, but yes, not nearly as emotional. The disappointed Dinobot goes back to his duty only to be ambushed by the three craziest Predicons. Optimus and Tigatron hear the sound, but while Optimus rushes to help Dinobot, Tigatron waits and watches. Optimus succeeds in taking out Waspinator and Pterosaur, but Inferno proves a stronger opponent. The red fire ant even sets a tree on fire, earning Tigatron's wrath, who jumps on Inferno and blasts off Inferno to a great distance. Tigatron extinguishes the fire and swears that as long as Predicons are there to harm the world, he will fight as a Maximal. Before the storm. This is the last standalone episode before we proceed to the Season 1 finale, and, of course, as the name suggests, it gives off the feeling of calmness before a storm. It starts with both Tigatron and Megatron observing an alien energy anomaly on a mountain. Megatron sends Inferno to investigate, who finds and retrieves another golden disc from a monolith. Inferno, calling Megatron his queen and utterly humiliating him, takes the prize. Optimus Primal also heads out to look for the energy anomaly when a strange ball of light shoots past him and stops abruptly, displaying a holographic image of Megatron. Megatron invites Optimus Primal for a peace talk on neutral ground, and the Maximal leader agrees. Upon meeting, Megatron claims to have something that he is busy with and cannot really invest his energy in fighting the Maximals. His tone and attitude are condescending, but Optimus, being a Maximal, has no other option than to accept it. The rest of the Maximal also share our emotions as they question Optimus's action, but the leader is no fool and orders Rattrap to infiltrate the Predicon base and find out what's going on. Speaking of the Pred base dark side, Tarantulas is ready to take off the planet and steals one of the transwarp cells, only to be caught by Waspinator. Tarantulas traps and blows up Waspinator, but Megatron watches it all and decides to play along. However, he orders Blackarachnia to investigate. It appears even the truce talk was fake as Megatron patiently awaits Optimus's next move, which involves Airazor flying Rattrap in front of Darkseid. As the defense system starts attacking them, Airazor requests Megatron to shut it off, and the Predicon leader politely agrees. However, he asks Airazor to take Rattrap along with him, and although Rattrap's mission fails, Tigatron succeeds in infiltrating the base. This episode clearly shows Megatron's T-Rex hand has a life of its own. Not only do the eyes of the T-Rex move on its own, but Megatron even talks to it, strokes it, and brushes its teeth like a pet. In that sense, Megatron is as attuned to his beast form as the Maximals. Coming back, Blackarachnia catches Tarantulas as he works on the transwarp cell and uses Megatron's voice. Megatron uses the distraction to write his own programming on it. Meanwhile, Tigatron hacks into the Predicon database and enters a VR world. He uses navigation to find the golden disc, and its inscriptions are decoded. Tigatron gets further noticed by Pterosaur and manages to run away from him without using weapons. Megatron also receives the alert and orders Pterosaur to catch the tiger. One of the scenes in this episode features David Kaye, the voice of Megatron, coughing. This was totally unscripted and is used for gag. David Kaye is a real sweetheart for sending holiday greetings to Transformers fans, and even uses Megatron's voice to sing or recite in YouTube videos. Moving on, Tigatron gets chased by the Predicon fam, but the Maximal fam is ready to save their friend. As Optimus instructs that they must use non-violent methods and remember the truce, the Maximals use a number of hilarious methods to stop the Predicons. These actions pay tribute to the Looney Tune gags and are seriously fun to watch. The Predicons retreat, while Megatron calmly watches. The Maximals rendezvous, and Tigatron finally reveals that the golden disc Megatron possesses has a message from the aliens that have created the floating island and harvested Energon. Tigatron lastly adds that the aliens are coming, and they are not happy at all.
The experiment will be sterilized.
You can't do that!
Other voices. Part 1. As seen at the end of the last episode, the fateful storm is here. The first part of the two-part season finale begins with the aliens finally arriving. Another power anomaly emerges from a wormhole that appears above the planet and starts descending. Rhinox and Optimus Primal notice the arrival. Optimus appoints Airazor and Rattrap to investigate the landing site. Meanwhile, Blackarachnia again interrupts Tarantulas as he works on the transwarp cell. Blackarachnia advises Tarantulas to steal 2 stasis pods from Axelon so that they can flee the planet before its doom. Megatron watches the 2 arachnids with satisfaction as his secret plan seems to be working well. Megatron also sends Waspinator to the alien landing site. Bob Forward has once revealed that the episode was meant to be a 4-part segment, but the plans were changed at the last minute as it was difficult to schedule. When Rattrap and Irazor reach the crop circle Orm site, they witness the Energon crystal orb, but it's stable. As Irazor tries to scan it, she gets zapped and engulfed in an organic dome while Rattrap is blasted away. Inside the dome, the aliens communicate and start scanning Irazor, inflicting her with pain. Outside the dome, a shaken-up Rattrap informs everything to Optimus, and soon, Waspinator arrives. However, as the truce is still on, Rattrap engages Waspinator in a fistfight and even gives him a robo-nuggy. Hand-to-hand combat is something that's rare in the world of Transformers, so it's a real slag to watch. Waspinator accepts defeat and leaves just as Optimus Primal arrives. While the Maximals try to laser through the organic dome, Megatron arrives with Scorponok and Pterosaur. Scorponok uses a poisonous sting to create a hole, and Optimus points out that the Maximals will go first as a Maximal is held hostage inside. Optimus and Rattrap find an injured Irazor in her beast form, and Rattrap drags her out while Optimus lets the aliens scan him. Meanwhile, the Arachnids work together to infiltrate Axelon, while at Megatron's behest, Inferno follows them quickly and drills a hole to get inside. It is one of the costliest shows of the late 90s, and at that time, the first season cost $18 million. Today, it would cost far more to use VFX and other measures. However, the small cast, involving actors voicing several roles, did go in the show's favour, enabling the writers to develop the character and show incredible stuff. Back at the site, the aliens finish scanning Optimus, and it's revealed that the aliens were the ones who had previously probed Optimus. The aliens take the form of Unicron's head and speak with Optimus, telling him how their experiment failed and that they will eliminate the planet. Optimus asks for a second chance, but the aliens are ready to give none. On the outside, Rattrap and Irazor find out that the truce is over, but the duo succeeds in taking down the Predicons. At the same time, Optimus has had enough, and he transforms to shoot himself out of the alien dome. The second and larger moon turns out to be an alien ship that now targets the planet, which could only be a prehistoric Earth. While the Maximals get out of the area, the second moon powers up, causing the orbiting stasis pod to stumble out of orbit and fall. The situation is far worse in Axelon, where the Arachnids shoot Rhinox and Dinobot to take over. Other voices. Part 2. The final segment, or as Tigatron points out to Cheetor, the end of the world, begins. Optimus Primal contacts them and orders them to return to base. The Predicons also keep a watch as the alien bungalow transfers all its powers to the second moon, which turns into a destroyer machine. Megatron starts scanning the Maximal base and is pleased to find his drone Inferno creeping up to the Arachnid. Tarantulas is almost finished with preparing his stasis, albeit escape pod, and Blackarachnia is ready to betray him, but both are taken by surprise by Inferno's entry. The dumb ant burns Tarantulas, inadvertently stopping the data flow. However, Blackarachnia wins her bout against Inferno and goes to access Tarantulas' data files. As she enters Tarantulas' mind, she gets attacked and threatened by Tarantula's mind. For this episode, Scott McNeil replaces Alec Willows as Tarantulas' voice. The rest of the Maximals also reach the base and realise something is amiss. Airazor notices Dinobot and Rhinox tied up in Energon webs. Optimus orders the cats to send the injured to CR chamber, while warriors Rattrap and Airazor are sent to look for the intruders. A quick contrast between the Predicon and Maximal leaders is shown. When Megatron is interested in noticing the data drive resuming data transfer, Optimus is more concerned with saving his team and planet. As the second moon starts firing, Optimus realizes the aliens are trying to ignite the Energons. On the other hand, Megatron admires the ruthlessness of the aliens and assures his team that Tarantulas will save them. Speaking of Tarantulas, it's curious that in beast mode, he is an African wolf spider and not a tarantula. It also has 9 eyes instead of the regular 8. While Megatron relies on Tarantulas, Blackarachnia is found out by Rattrap and Airazor. Optimus orders Blackarachnia to change the command codes so that the transwarp cell responds to his voice. Optimus's plan is rather risky, as he intends to fly the pod to the alien machine and use the transwarp cell to destroy it. Blackarachnia is forced to comply, while Optimus inspires his team as he leaves. However, As he reaches the planet Buster, Optimus finds the hatch sealed and locked. Megatron appears on screen and reveals that this was his plan to kill two birds with a stone. In Axalon, the Maximals learn the harsh truth from Blackarachnia, who now speaks in Tarantulas' voice, while the transwarp cell reaches the planet Buster with Optimus in it. The transwarp cell explodes and the planet Buster is gone, but so is Optimus Primal.
Rodent, feel my power.
Season 2, Aftermath. The second season starts off right from the cliffhanger left in the first season finale. Optimus Primal is presumably dead, and the Maximals are in shock, whereas Predicons applaud and cheer Megatron for getting rid of the rival leader. However, the danger is not over as a quantum surge from the destruction of the planet Buster engulfs the planet. Aboard Axalon, Rattrap, Cheetor and Tarantula's charred body are directly hit by the charge, while at Darkseid, Waspinator falls into the CR pool, while Megatron, Scorponok and Pterosaur are affected by the surge. Unfortunately for Pterosaur and Scorponok, they fall into the lava pit. After the surge is over, Rattrap and Cheetor emerge with a new Transmetal body with fascinating advancements and sleek designs. The duo changes into beast mode, but this time they are more like robot animals and don't possess an organic body. Bad luck for Tigatron and Airazor, who remain the same, as well as Blackarachnia. However, Tarantulas speaks to her from inside her head and urges her to retrieve his body and return to their lab. Blackarachnia does as told, but fails to notice the severed Inferno has survived. Megatron also seems to have obtained a transmetal body, but it still remains in the dark. Back in Axalon, Rhinox wakes up from a long dream and gets the grim news about Optimus. Dinobot tries to assume leadership, but a quick threat from Rhinox makes him shut up. Outside the base, Tigatron and Airazor catch Blackarachnia, but they are interrupted by Megatron, who finally appears in his new design with Waspinator in tow. One of the unmade episodes is called Bitch Wars, and would have the female warriors Airazor and Blackarachnia making up their own faction. Unfortunately, for us, the plan didn't materialize. Blackarachnia tries to make her case, pointing out that Megatron needs more members on his team, and he spares her. However, when Megatron orders her to fire, she is unable to do so, as Tarantulas distracts her. Blackarachnia is forced to listen to Tarantulas as she retrieves his body and flees the scene. Rhinox sends the two new Transmetals to fight Megatron, but Inferno attacks Rhinox and Dinobot. The battle outside takes a different turn, as the new Transmetals find it difficult to make sense of the changes. On the other hand, Megatron and Rattrap show off their individual new beast modes to each other. While Megatron engages Rattrap, Cheetor fights it out with Waspinator. As Cheetor chases Waspinator, he sees Megatron cornering Rattrap. He goes to help, but Megatron shoots both the Maximals together. Meanwhile, Rhinox throws out Inferno from the ship and emerges with his chain gun of doom. Originally, it was not guns, but a form of buzzsaw with maces, but animators had reinterpreted the design and turned the circular holes of the buzzsaw into gun barrels. Anyway, this was enough for Megatron to undertake a strategic retreat, but new threats lurk nearby as the aftermath of the disaster has caused several stasis pods to land. As its DNA scanners start malfunctioning, uncanny protoforms begin to emerge. While we can promise you more beast warriors and greater combats, it won't be without some sacrifices on the way. Stay tuned for betrayal, love, friendship, and another alien attack in the world of Transformers. Coming of the Fusors, Part 1. As two stasis bodies have landed in Predicon territory, Megatron and Inferno venture out to secure them. Meanwhile, Waspinator notices the single moon and the deserted land of the planet and has an epiphany. He goes back to base to examine the two golden discs, while Dinobot also looks at the moon and has the same idea. He sneaks into Darkseid and confronts Waspinator, as both realize that Megatron was right. They have indeed landed on Earth, albeit a prehistoric one. Waspinator offers Dinobot to join forces, but the ex-Predicon uses Waspinator to deactivate the shield to protect the discs and steal them. Blackarachnia notices Dinobot, but spares zero effort in stopping him, and Tarantulas prioritizes getting restored, which enables Dinobot to escape. A poor Waspinator turns into a cube, and drags himself to the CR pool, but everybody ignores him. As for the Maximals, they have also found a stasis pod, but without a spark. Tigatron and his Lady Air-Razor leave to find out what other changes have occurred over the... Rhinox explains to Rattrap that the protoform is blank, and after sending Cheetor to find Dinobot, Rhinox hooks himself to a machine to go out of consciousness. Meanwhile, two new Transformers with hybrid bodies emerge from their pods after their scanners malfunction. One of the hybrids of a Scorpion and Cobra starts showing an aggressive nature and randomly attacks the other hybrid, a Wolf and Eagle, who is more demure in nature. Inferno arrives amidst the fighting bots, but instead of stopping them, the Mad Ant is about to start a fire. The Dogbird stops him, and Megatron finally approaches the duo to activate them as Predicon members. So far, Megatron has been entertaining himself watching the petty fight, but now he makes the hybrids understand how to transform into a Predicon. The hybrids call themselves Quickstrike and Silverbolt. Elsewhere, a worried Dinobot quotes Shakespeare as he examines the golden disc and debates whether it tells the future or the possibilities of it. His pride further prohibits Dinobot from destroying the disc, and since it can be used only once, he decides to study it later. He hides the original stolen disc and takes back the alien disc to Axelon. However, tough times await Dinobot as Cheetor gets chased by the new Predicons and Megatron. Although Cheetor gets the better of Silverbolt, Megatron is hard to shake off. He calls the base for assistance. The computer in Axelon informs Rattrap that if Rhinox's consciousness is extended anymore, it can result in the loss of his spark. When Dinobot returns, he is faced with this dire news and quickly gears up for battle. Tarantulas is also restored, but he still holds a mental link with Blackarachnia that helps him control her. As a Wild West theme plays in the background, Megatron calls his team to finally end the Maximals. The episode ends on yet another cliffhanger, as the unbalanced factions are ready to face off and end the Beast Wars. Coming of the Fusors, Part 2. The battle begins, and the Maximals are vastly outnumbered, something Silverbolt points out, only to be brutally scolded by Megatron. Amidst the fight, Tarantulas secretly guides Blackarachnia to find the data copies of the golden discs. Also, Rhinox's search for whatever he is looking for is about to drain his life while his friends try to keep the Predicons at bay and away from the base. However, it doesn't take long for Megatron to deduce the Maximals' plan, and he sends Silverbolt and Waspinator to converge above Axelon. Cheetor turns to Beast Mode, or rather Vehicle Mode, and flies away to stop the Predicon flyers. He knocks out Waspinator in a usual fashion just after Waspy decides to be the leader. Cheetah's sudden appearance also astounds Silverbolt, who is facing trouble making sense of things. Rattrap also turns into Vehicle Mode and takes Dinobot on his back as they fire at the Predicons. This is obviously a humiliating moment for Dinobot, but it works fantastically, and the duo is able to crush Tarantulas temporarily. The moment breaks the psychic link between Blackarachnia and Tarantulas, allowing the Black Widow to scan and copy the codes before destroying the computer. In one of the sequences of the fight, Megatron and Inferno collide, exchanging their heads. Now, as we were, the Maximals reconvene in front of Axelon, just as Silverbolt is shot down by the defense system. Cheetor and Rattrap prevent Dinobot from killing Silverbolt, and he is still taken inside to recover in the CR chamber. Silverbolt also learns that Dinobot defected the Predicons. Rhinox also finishes his exploration of the Matrix and returns just in time. As Rhinox hopes for a miracle, they head back to fight what seems to be a death battle. However, energy from the device Rhinox was connected to travel through the wires and reach the blank protoform. The Maximal that emerges from the pod shocks the newly recovered Silverbolt, who stands in awe. In the meantime, the Axelon shield is broken by the Predicons, and as dawn comes, the Predicons approach the severely injured Maximals. However, before Megatron can pull the killing shot, he is surprised by an explosion. Out of the Axelon emerges Optimus Primal, now a Transmetal. The odds are now evened out as the brand new Optimus Primal single-handedly takes on the Predicons. There's also a Wild West face-off between Primal and Inferno, but when Megatron tries to kill Optimus Primal, Silverbolt knocks him off the cliff and resigns from the Predicons. With Silverbolt joining the Maximals, there are a lot of things Optimus needs to update on. Rhinox informs that the Energons are either detonated or are minimal in number, so they don't create any issue anymore, but they wait for Tigatron to deliver more news on the matter. While the Maximals engage in fun and banter, Megatron and Tarantulas grill Blackarachnia about the loss of data. Blackarachnia blatantly lies, and when Megatron leaves, a binary code flashes across her eyes. Tangled web. Life has gone back to normal in the Predicon and Maximal base. Megatron appoints Tarantulas, Blackarachnia, and Quickstrike to create a refueling station in a place that has a large reserve of Energon cubes. Megatron also puts Waspinator and Inferno to work on jamming Maximal communication. While working, Quickstrike and Blackarachnia strike up a conversation and get closer, but Tarantulas has other things in mind. He secretly throws in a transmitter among the equipment to lure out the Maximals, who can disrupt Megatron's plans. At Axelon, Rhinox studies the Transmetal body of Optimus Primal when Cheetor reports to them about the Predicon signal on the Maximal channel. Rattrap and Silverbolt take up the mission to find the signal. However, when the arachnids reach the underground lair, Tarantulas realizes he doesn't need the Maximals and can make an independent group with Blackarachnia and Quickstrike. Tarantulas destroys the signal, and while he succeeds in convincing the destructive Quickstrike, Blackarachnia needs more convincing or, rather, coercion through a psychic link. Tarantulas' plan is rather similar to the Insecticons in G1. As the Predicon signal suddenly vanishes, Rattrap and Silverbolt decide to follow the scent and find their trail. Meanwhile, the Dumb and Dumber duo Waspinator and Inferno finish off their assignment and inform Megatron, but Inferno knocking the tower over Waspy indicates otherwise. Still, Megatron gets suspicious about the arachnids, and he is not wrong. Blackarachnia protests Tarantulas' psychic torture by threatening to blow up the Energon cubes. Tarantulas soon discovers that the psychic link is a two-way feature, and he can feel Blackarachnia's pain. He complies and breaks the link, but there is no time to breathe. Rattrap and Silverbolt arrive near the location, and the three Predicons engage them in battle. Silverbolt refuses to strike Blackarachnia as she is a female, but that's just Prime. The Maximals realize that the Preds are keeping them off the cave and they try to get in. However, the entrance suddenly blows up and no one knows who did it. The Predicons retreat and report to a furious Megatron about their failure. But a last clip shows Tarantulas setting up his new lab in the cave, as it was he who intentionally blew the entrance of the lair. Maximal, no more. Dinobot was missing from the scene in the last one, and now he is back, examining the golden disc signals against those of the Predicon ship and installations. Clearly, Megatron's world domination plan is convoluted and stronger than ever. Dinobot asks himself if he is willing to sacrifice the Predicon heritage for a chance of victory with the Maximals. Before he can contemplate further, Dinobot gets the opportunity he was waiting for. Optimus Primal sends Dinobot to lead a mission with Rattrap. They are suddenly ambushed by Inferno and Quickstrike. Silverbolt watches Dinobot fight Inferno and proceeds to assist him, but Waspinator shoots him down and he crashes into Dinobot, knocking him out. While Rattrap hides away from Quickstrike, Inferno carries Dinobot away. After they leave, Rattrap imitates Quickstrike to knock out Waspinator before he can take away an unconscious Silverbolt. Later, at the Predicon base, Dinobot pretends to be unconscious, but finally breaks free and confronts Megatron. However, to everyone's surprise, Dinobot calls himself a Predicon and is ready to change sides. Dinobot claims to have misunderstood Megatron, as he thought the Predicon leader betrayed him and brought them to the wrong planet. To prove himself, Dinobot also changes his activation command, but Tarantulas is unsatisfied. Blackarachnia suggests that Dinobot can instead fight Quickstrike to prove himself, and Megatron agrees. Moving on, it doesn't take much for Dinobot to defeat Quickstrike, but he refuses to kill him, pointing out that Quickstrike could be a good asset. Megatron is still not satisfied as he asks Dinobot to return the golden discs. Dinobot lies that the alien disc is with Rhinox but is forced to take Megatron to the cliff where he has hidden the original disc. Rattrap notices them and follows. After Dinobot delivers the golden disc, Megatron tries to strike him from the back, but Rattrap stops him. Dinobot retaliates and blasts off Rattrap. This could be because Dinobot wanted the whole exchange to happen secretly. Also, despite what he says, Dinobot seems to have been influenced by the maximal life as he is unable to kill Rattrap and crosses arms with Megatron. With Silverbolt and Optimus Primal approaching, Megatron leaves, while Dinobot claims that Megatron's foolish ambition will be the end of both factions. Dinobot confesses to Optimus, but asks for a second chance, and the rest agree. Dinobot again changes his activation code and is now ready to share everything with Optimus, but the leader suggests they can discuss it in Axelon. Rattrap transforms and gives Dinobot a ride. Rattrap intentionally takes Dinobot on a bumpy ride. Other visits. Part 1. Rhinox and Dinobots scan the alien symbols of the golden discs and look for patterns until they notice Tigatron and Air Razor's line of patrol falls on that location. They try to inform the duo, but are unable to do so due to Megtron's jamming towers. Dinobot volunteers to destroy the towers with Rattrap, while Rhinox informs the others about the dangers surrounding Tigatron and Air Razor. Tarantulas also notices the alien signal as he finally finishes rebuilding the lab. He transforms and leaves immediately for the site. Meanwhile, in Darkseid, Blackarachnia gets bored with her monitoring duty, and Megatron overhears her complaining. When Blackarachnia notices Tarantulas after days, Megatron orders her to keep a tab. It appears everyone's plans are coming to a conclusion, and Megatron decides it's time for him to get back the alien golden disc. Meanwhile, Tigatron and Air Razor come across an alien flower, which is the first hint of plant life after the destruction of the planet Buster. The duo discovers an oasis-like area with natural beauty, except that the plants are not from Earth. Air Razor transforms to scan the area, but she should have learned her lesson by now. Tigatron also transforms, thereby activating the alien site. As they admire the beauty, the couple finally joins hands, but it's a doomed love affair, as tendrils from an alien plant entwine them. The lovers promise to always find each other's spark as they get consumed and transported into space. Cheetor arrives and watches the entire event. Unable to do anything, he screams in agony and falls on his knees, which is most opportune for Tarantulas, who appears to gloat. Tarantulas knocks out Cheetor, but has to retreat as Optimus Primal and Silverbolt arrive. They revive Cheetor, who informs them what has transpired. Optimus relays the information to Rhinox, and the rest of the Maximals are also called back to base. Cheetor was intended to be a kid appeal character, learning different lessons in each episode. He was also supposed to have a heart that glowed when he did good. This appeared in the original version of the toy. The writers thought the character would be too condescending and paid it less importance. But personally, Cheetor has remained criminally underused so far. Megatron, Blackarachnia, and Inferno watch the developments and decide it's time to retrieve the other golden disc. Megatron pays Axelon a visit, and while he engages Rhinox in trash talk, Inferno and Blackarachnia infiltrate the base. They damage the defense system, allowing Megatron to enter. Rhinox puts up a fight, but 1 against 3 doesn't look good at all. He loses an arm and the golden disc to the Predicons. Sometime later, the Maximals are back at base, and Optimus reattaches Rhinox's arm. They decide to take care of the Predicons before the aliens arrive, but they might be late. At Darkseid, Tarantulas rejoins the Predicons, but only to help them survive the alien attack, as he is no longer under Megatron's command. As the Predicons start ramming posts for yet unexplainable reasons, it is revealed that Tarantulas hates the aliens. The Maximals arrive and transform to attack, but even before the battle starts, the alien beam comes down and the wild alien plant receives it to form a dome. As the dome opens, an Energon surge takes the Transformers down. Other visits. Part 2. The energy surge from the Metal Hunter has rendered all the Transformers unconscious, but the Transmetals recover sooner. Megatron notices that the alien base doesn't react to their presence, and Tarantulas uses the devices planted by Predicons to create a force field net that repels the Maximals. Megatron uses the alien golden disc to enter, while Tarantulas and Quickstrike follow. Meanwhile, Optimus asks Cheetor and Silverbolt to take Dinobot and Rhinox back to the base to bring them online, while he and Rattrap start analysing ways to take down the shield. Inside the dome, Megatron uses Quick Strike as a guinea pig to test the aliens' reactions. Nothing happens, and Megatron realises that the transmetals are invisible to the aliens. However, Tarantulas doesn't find any aliens, and as Megatron places the golden disc on the interface, it activates an energy surge, consuming Megatron. Outside, Rattrap and Optimus take down the shield, but Tarantulas and Quick Strike attack. This doesn't continue long as a control chair appears for Megatron inside, and a few moments later, his face appears on the dome. As Optimum charges after the dome, he gets knocked out by a shot, and green energy engulfs and levitates everybody except for Rattrap, who hides. Rattrap is based on comedian Lou Costello, and his partner Bud Abbott inspired Rhinox. It is easily one of the funniest characters without trying hard. His plan is accomplished, and Megatron drops Tarantulas to the green field and then teleports the ship to a remote snowy mountain. While Optimus is strung unconscious, Megatron discusses his next set of plans with the team and sends Waspinator and Inferno to bring in transwarp cells. On the other hand, Tarantulas forces Rattrap to take him to the Maximals. At Axelon, Silverbolt gets frustrated as he fails to find the Metal Hunter, whereas Dinobot and Rhinox are back from the CR chamber. When Rattrap and Tarantulas arrive, the team has an argument, but Rhinox ultimately allows Tarantulas to access the computer. The arachnid finds Metal Hunter and urges the Maximals to attack. At the alien base, Optimus wakes up and learns that Megatron plans to take the Metal Hunter to Cybertron. Optimus advises against it, but Megatron turns deaf ears as he suspects the Predicon alliance will appreciate his success. The Maximals soon attack, while Rattrap and Tarantulas infiltrate the base. Megatron starts the teleportation sequence, but Rattrap frees Optimus and, at Optimus's behest, shoots the control chair. Optimus finally fights back Megatron, but it is ultimately Tarantulas who succeeds in preventing the teleportation. However, now it will blow up the Metal Hunter, the Beast. Warriors flee the base before it happens, and later, Optimus promises to get back Tigatron and Air Razor. Bad spark. When Cheetor spots a giant stasis pod with a large yellow X, Rhinox is quite terrified about what might come next. Optimus Primal takes Silverbolt to investigate, whereas Megatron sends Blackarachnia and Waspinator to secure the pod. Predicons being Predicons, Megatron plants a bug on Blackarachnia to hear her, while another treacherous arachnid hears from another bug placed on Megatron's armchair. Upon arriving at the location, Optimus explains that the pod holds Protoform X, an abomination created by Maximal scientists. However, it was difficult to control, and Axelon was tasked to dump it somewhere far away. Rhinox calls upon Primus to help them deal with Protoform X. Primus is considered a god and the creator of the Transformers. As Optimus finishes, the Pred duo strikes and refuses to listen. Blackarachnia tries to incite Silverbolt into fighting her, but he won't, and suddenly, Tarantulas arrives. As the male arachnid behaves poorly with the Widow, Silverbolt defends her. The fight causes the Energons surrounding the pod to ignite and explode. It further leads to a tornado, and the Transformers are spewed away in different directions. Tarantulas lands beside the pod and finds it empty when suddenly a creature far terrifying emerges, and we can only hear Tarantula scream in horror. Meanwhile, Blackarachnia and Silverbolt crash next to each other. With both significantly injured, they decide to walk together, but Silverbolt tries to remind her that she is a Maximal protoform. They discover an arm of Tarantulas hanging in one of the trees, but when it comes to crossing a bridge, Blackarachnia is ready to stab Silverbolt in the back. However, when Silverbolt saves her from a Sabertooth and is about to fall, Blackarachnia saves the Maximal, indicating the start of something new. Inferno and Megatron watch the development and are disgusted. The scene parodies romantic films, whereas Tarantula's scream is a reference to the movie Predator, 1987. As for Optimus and Cheetor, they return to Axelon to repair their damages and return to find Silverbolt, who along with Blackarachnia finally comes face to face with the horror of Tarantula's body lying in pieces. They soon encounter the culprit as an even larger and maniacal Crabbot appears before them. Every attack on Protoform X turns futile as he quite easily captures Silverbolt and tries to strangle him until Optimus and Cheetor arrive. They are joined by Blackarachnia as the trio shoots at the monster. Ultimately, Optimus drives it off the cliff, but soon it starts to climb the mountainside. Silverbolt knocks him down, but a stray shot still blows up in front of Blackarachnia, throwing her off the cliff. Silverbolt heroically saves her, even with his injured wings. The would-be lovers take their leaves while the Maximals decide to bring in Rhinox on the case. At last, Megatron arrives with an Energon blade, but instead of killing, he brings Protoform X back to the base, treating him to the CR pool and naming him Rampage. The only catch is that Megatron has retrieved a tiny piece of Rampage's spark to control him. Code of Hero. The humans don't exist in Beast Wars. At least, Homo sapiens don't. But at the beginning of this episode, we learn that primitive humans do exist at the same time on Earth. In Axelon, Dinobot tries to pierce his sword through his heart, but fails. Rhinox deduces the transwarp wave from the destruction of Planet Buster will reach Cybertron in the present and will alert them about Axelon's location. Optimus is afraid that Megatron will make similar deductions, and, hence, must be stopped. Amidst all the tension, an argument breaks between Dinobot and Rattrap, who is quite upset about Dinobot's previous betrayal. Dinobot promises to make things right. Meanwhile, on a recon flight, Cheetah notices Megatron and Rampage heading somewhere. Dinobot takes matters into his own hands as he lures out Tarantulas with a bait. So Tarantulas is not dead, after all. Dinobot threatens Tarantulas to learn what is there in the golden disc, but when the spider is unable to inform, Dinobot uses him for a ride. In the meantime, Megatron's arrival scares the proto-humans in the vicinity. The Predicon leader shows Rampage that the golden disc contains images recorded in the future and destroys a mountaintop. As the image of the golden disc changes, it's proved that Megatron can change the future. And by that, Megatron wants to annihilate the humans so that they cannot interfere in the Great War, which leads to the Maximals ruling over Predicons. Megatron calls on his gang to demolish the valley and exterminate all the proto-humans. Dinobot witnesses this secretly and is about to inform the Maximals, but Tarantulas attacks him. Dinobot crushes him with a rock and contacts Optimus, who asks him to wait till everyone comes. However, Dinobot can hardly wait, as everything will be over by the time the Maximals arrive. The Warrior, ex-Predicon, takes on Megatron's troops single-handedly. Dinobot rips Inferno and uses his gun to blast Blackarachnia. He crushes Waspinator and uses his head to make Rampage's cannon backfire. The co-story editor, Bob Forward, storyboarded this episode and collaborated with the animators. It is the only one that was directed by the series writers. No doubt, it received critical positive acclaim, although a lot of that has to do with the popularity of Dinobot. Lastly, he thrashes Quickstrike, but the heavy action drains out his energy supply. The computer starts alerting Dinobot that he must enter stasis lock to survive, or else his spark will die. Dinobot forcibly overrides the command and stands strong as fire rages in the valley. Dinobot confronts Megatron, but the evil leader has captured a proto-human and uses him as a hostage to stop Dinobot. This doesn't work as Dinobot creates a makeshift hammer and uses it to knock out Megatron, freeing the proto-human. At last, Dinobot grabs the golden disc and destroys it with a final optic blast. Megatron flees, while Dinobot collapses just as the Maximals arrive. Cheetor put out the fire, and they surround Dinobot. As Dinobot bids his final goodbye, he asks his friends to share his story truthfully, both good and ugly. He even quotes Othello and Hamlet, which adds drama and flair. As Dinobot expires, his spark leaves the body to be one with the Matrix, and the Maximals salute his honor. Later, the Maximals incinerate his body, while the proto-human uses Dinobot's hammer and finally learns how to protect themselves from other animals. Transmutate. While Megatron sleeps, Rampage tries to steal back his spark, but Megatron wakes up and squeezes it to prove his dominance once more. As for the Maximals, Rattrap, Silverbolt, and Cheetor are on a mission to destroy Megatron's jamming towers when they start feeling tremors from an earthquake. The rock slides bury Rattrap and Cheetor, and reveal a damaged stasis pod stuck in the mountain. Megatron finds out and sends Inferno and Rampage to get it, and although Inferno reaches first, he is taken out by Silverbolt. Rampage arrives next and feels a certain connection with the protoform, which emerges to be an incomplete-looking transformer with a powerful psionic scream. Both Rampage and Silverbolt try to convince the Transmutate to join them, but a sudden attack from Inferno confuses and scares the Transmutate, and her scream causes an Energon surge on the others. Rampage assures the Transmutate that he is her only friend and leaves with her while Silverbolt finds Rattrap and Cheetor. When Optimus Primal arrives, he sends Rattrap and Cheetor back to base, but takes Silverbolt along to find the new Transformer. Elsewhere, Megatron is not pleased with the appearances and abilities of the Transmutate, not to mention her inability to transform, and orders Rampage to dump her, but Rampage convinces Megs to give him one chance. Megatron agrees, provided Transmutate brings him a Maximal. There were no official Transmutate toys, but Hasbro included several Transmutate pieces along with the original Beast Wars toys during the 10th anniversary of the show. These pieces could be assembled to create the complete figurine, which is a challenge in itself. Ready to please the royalty, Inferno urges Transmutate to catch a Maximal, and when Silverbolt flies, he notices a seemingly injured Transmutate lying on the ground. Silverbolt is ambushed by the two Predicons, but Transmutate is unwilling to shoot Silverbolt and Inferno fires at her. However, her psionic scream throws off Inferno, but before Rampage can finish off Silverbolt, Optimus arrives and drops a boulder on Rampage. Transmutate attempts to attack Optimus with her scream, but Silverbolt stops her, and together, the three head for Axelon, with Transmutate carrying Silverbolt and flying. Rhinox examines Transmutate and discovers that she has damaged circuits and is not of great intelligence, except for the fact that she is a danger to others. The Axelon leadership decides to put her in stasis lock, but Silverbolt refuses. As Transmutate wanders through Axelon, Rampage reaches out to her through telepathy. Transmutate leaves to find Rampage, and soon Silverbolt leaves to find her. Silverbolt tries to stop Rampage from leaving with Transmutate, but the two get into a fight. As Transmutate tries to intercept the missiles launched by both sides, she loses her life. At the last moment, Transmutate bids goodbye to both of her friends. Optimus and Cheetor arrive, ready to attack Rampage, but Silverbolt stops them as he lets Rampage mourn.
No!
The agenda. Part 1. The transwarp wave from the Planet Buster destruction is about to reach Cybertron, and the Maximals celebrate yet another chance to go home. The Predicons are, of course, not content, and with the hominids now scattered across Earth, making them extinct is impossible. However, Megatron rests his chances on one final gamble, as Blackarachnia shows up on screen. Silverbolt and Blackarachnia meet up in a secret place, where Silverbolt delivers her graviton generator. The two are definitely in a relationship, but Silverbolt still tries to convince her to join the Maximal side. Somewhere else, at another time, a Cybertronian outpost gets shaken by the transwarp wave, and the Tripredicus Council, consisting of 3 Predicon Alliance leaders, convenes to discuss their options. The Council has detonated a Cybertronian satellite so that the transwarp wave doesn't reach Cybertron. They are also disappointed with the renegade Megatron's activities and have sent an agent in a Cybertronian ship to collect Megatron. Coming back to Earth, Silverbolt returns to Axelon. Rattrap, being himself, teases him, but it touches a nerve and Silverbolt stomps on Rattrap, only for Optimus to break them apart. Optimus Primal is sure that the Predicons will take a last chance in defeating them, but expects something subtle. His guesses are almost correct as Inferno and Waspinator lay out some entrapments, but Rampage stays true to his name and takes a not-so-subtle approach of bombarding the Axelon shield with missiles. As the shield's power degrades, the Maximals rush to save their base until an invisible Cybertronian ship arrives and shoots at the Predicons. The series animators have notoriously used Cybertronics, a language developed and used in Beast Wars, to share random texts and comments. Some of them are really funny, while others are swear words, and some are even relevant information. There's also the term slag, mostly used by Maximals, which is a Beast War slang to replace curse words. So to speak, the Maximals think it's a real slag when Optimus orders opening the hatch and communicating with the Cybertronian visitor. Silverbolt senses something wrong, and right then, red lasers appear out of nowhere, disarming our Maximals. Optimus shares that the newcomer is a Decepticon who was offered amnesty after the Great War and has become a Predicon. The visitor finally sheds his invisibility, and Optimus recognizes him as Ravage. The overly sweet covert agent Ravage informs us that he has come to arrest Megatron and lies about the transwarp cell. Well, nobody really believes him. Meanwhile, Blackarachnia finishes off her work on a stasis pod when Megatron calls her and sends her to guard the base. Blackarachnia listens when he sends Waspinator on a secret mission. Ravage gives the Maximals a ride in his transwarp jet as they head for the Predicon base, and an alarm sets off in Tarantulas' den. Ravage drops the Maximals outside the Pred base, and another battle ensues. Silverbolt ignores Optimus's orders to finish off Blackarachnia as she winks and leaves after Waspinator. Rhinox goes gun-blazing against Inferno, and Cheetor takes a few comical hits, but at last, Ravage fires upon Darkseid, making all of Megatron's systems go offline. Ravage binds Megatron with energy cuffs, and as the Maximals arrive, Ravage puts Megatron under arrest.
Predicon Alliance, you are under arrest.
The Agenda, Part 2. Megatron is imprisoned, but Optimus Primal is still not at peace. He calls Silverbolt to his office and questions his relationship with Blackarachnia. Realizing that the poor guy is head over heels for the female spider, Optimus confines Silverbolt to his quarters and orders Cheetor to bring over Blackarachnia. Meanwhile, Megatron and Ravage get into an argument as both insults each other. As Transmutate wanders through Axelon, Rampage reaches out to her through telepathy. Megatron offers to tell Ravage about his stash of Energon in exchange for freedom, but Ravage doesn't need any such favours, as he reveals already knowing the location from the trusted lieutenant of the Predicon secret police Tarantulas. Back at Axelon, Cheetor prepares to leave and promises Silverbolt not to hurt Blackarachnia, but our Romeo apologises and knocks out Cheetor to escape. Rattrap tries to stop him, but Silverbolt blows a hole in the ship, which honestly is quite unnecessary. Silverbolt finds Blackarachnia following Waspinator to the mountains. He gets on board and flirts with Blackarachnia, trying to convince her to join the good side again. The Black Widow points out she is evil and a Predicon, but Romeo doesn't care. As they kiss, the hovercraft accidentally hits Waspinator, and Silverbolt heroically saves Blackarachnia. Optimus and Cheetor then head out to obtain the Energon crystals for Ravage, but find that the crystals are unstable. They soon find out it's a trap as Inferno attacks them. The Mad Ant suffers Energon buildup and fires at the unstable Energon, causing them to blow up. Optimus and Cheetor escape, who informs everything to Ravage, but Inferno is incinerated. The idea to use Ravage from The Transformers, 1984, was of Benson Ben Yi, who is essentially a Transformers fan, promoted as a consultant by the creators. He even gets an end credit in the second season. Ravage confronts Megatron and interrogates him, but Megatron reveals that he has kept a shard of the golden disc. Ravage releases Megatron from the power bonds, and Megs shows him that the part has a message from the original Megatron. The message is instructions on how to use the transwarp technology, which is left by the original Megatron for his descendants in case the Decepticons lose the Great War. This does the trick and wins over Ravage to the Predicon Megatron side. Back at the mountain, Blackarachnia and Silverbolt find a tunnel shut off by Megatron, but what lies inside remains a mystery for now. Meanwhile, Optimus and Cheetor are on the way to Axelon when Rattrap radios in about Ravage's betrayal. Ravage transforms into a cassette as Megatron rides Ravage's ship. The iconic transformation sound from the Transformers, 1984, is used. There were plans to play a part of the More Than Meets the Eye theme tune at this point, but the idea was scratched out due to copyright constraints. The episode ends with Predicons attacking the Maximals. The Agenda, Part 3. The season finale begins with an all-out war between the Maximals and the Predicons. As Axelon gets repeatedly assaulted, Rattrap decides it's time he hunts Ravage the Catbot. Ravage orders Tarantulas to transfer all the cruiser's power to a gigantic missile, while Megatron is happy to shoot down Optimus Primal and Cheetor. However, Rattrap jumps onto Ravage's cruiser and breaks into it. He blows up Tarantulas with sticky bombs, and it, in turn, blows up the interior of the cruiser, taking down Ravage in a fireball. As the cruiser starts falling, it almost falls on Megatron and stops short just before Rampage. The Crabbot rejoices, but the missile is released, and it obliterates Rampage along with a mountain. Rattrap is flung off by the explosion, but he lands on Rhinox's arms. Megatron flees, and the Maximals start following him. For the first time, Optimus gives Rhinox a ride on his hovering skateboard. Meanwhile, Silverbolt and Blackarachnia finish removing all the stones and discover the Ark inside the caves of a volcano. Blackarachnia informs Silverbolt that it contains the great Autobot warriors. However, Decepticons attacked the ship, and members of both groups were stored inside until 1984, when the Great War started. Despite being so enamored by each other, Blackarachnia plans on stealing all the power of the ship herself. But her hopes are dashed when Megatron interrupts them and attacks. Megatron seals off the entrance with boulders just as the Maximals arrive outside. The animators of the show did outstanding work in finding different ways they could make the Transmetal warriors use several weapons for close combat and firefight. This was needed as the Transmetal toys have a very limited range of weapons. Moving on, Megatron forces Blackarachnia to give up the Ark's access code, but she refuses. Megatron resorts to threatening to kill Silverbolt, and at the same time, Optimus and the gang try to break in. Blackarachnia ultimately gives in to save her lover and also her own hide, and the Maximals enter a tad too late as the Ark door closes behind the two Predicons. Blackarachnia activates the Ark's defenses to hold off the Maximals, but never mind. Rhinox is there to pry the door open. One of the rules for the writers of the show was to end each season with the entire cast killed off. This was to let Hasbro decide which characters would return in the next season. The iconic transformation sound from the Transformers 1984 is used, so the odds for Optimus and the gang don't look too good. Megatron walks through the halls by the sleeping Autobots and Decepticons. He blasts a dormant Optimus Prime to change the course of history, or rather the future, and a time storm starts engulfing the Maximals. They start phasing into their old appearances and out of existence, while Megatron rejoices in triumph. Season 3. Optimal Situation. The time storm started by Megatron continues to distort reality and means the end of the Maximals. However, help comes from Blackarachnia, who reminds Megatron that she is a Maximal protoform. Since the time storm is also about to delete her existence, Blackarachnia activates the security system and shoves Megatron outside. Silverbolt joins Blackarachnia in bringing the Ark's repair system online and stabilizing their ancestor, Optimus Prime. The other Maximals arrive in the room, and Optimus Primal realizes he must absorb Optimus Prime's spark to let his body repair. As Primal merges his own spark with that of the original Optimus Prime, Rhinox gets on the Autobot repair device to repair the physical body of Prime. Meanwhile, the absorption starts to take effect on Primal, and he convulses in agony while transforming. Outside the Ark, Megatron orders his minions to pull their weight and fix themselves as the war is not over. It looks like everyone has survived. But when Megatron and Inferno relaunches the attack, the new and refurbished Optimal Optimus stands before the Maximals, protecting them. Megatron finds Blackarachnia outside the cave and shoots at her for the betrayal. He then leaves along with the rest of the Predicons to target Axelon. Optimal takes Cheetor to pursue Megatron, while the Dogbird hears his beloved scream and rushes outside. In a very dramatic moment, Blackarachnia collapses in the arms of Silverbolt and he howls in pain. Rattrap and Rhinox remind him that Blackarachnia has only gone under stasis lock and can be repaired. Heartbreak still awaits the Maximals as they witness Rampage and the Arachnoids dragging Axelon to the cliff. Optimal tries to sever the line, but Rampage's missile brings down Axelon, who drops into the river below. With Optimal Optimus being much larger in size than Season 1, he wouldn't have fitted inside Axelon either. With their home gone, Optimal and Cheetor return to the Ark, and Optimal Optimus returns the spark to the now repaired body of Optimus Prime. The future is secured for now, but the Maximals get into securing the Ark, which can now be their only home. Deep Metal, the Maximals and Blackarachnia, who still consider herself a Predicon, have fortified the Ark within a mountain. All is good except for Rhinox, who faces trouble salvaging the hardware from Axelon. Optimus Primal reasons that this is all the more reason they need help from the Maximal Elders. Optimus's wish seems to be coming true, as it seems an anomaly has caused a Cybertronian ship to approach Earth, but to catch Protoform X, aka Rampage. The Predicons also seem to have not lost hope, as at Megatron's orders, Inferno takes the lead in attacking the Maximal base, along with a very disinterested Rampage. As the Cybertronian ship approaches, Rampage senses someone familiar. It's quite entertaining to watch the crazy ant make a great show of attacking the base but get crushed by a large rock. Meanwhile, Cheetor notices the approaching spacecraft and radios to Optimus. The spacecraft lands in water, and Depth Charge the Maximal scans the marine animals to turn into a manta. As Rampage attacks Cheetor, the kid falls into the water, and Depth Charge rescues Cheetor, but maroons Cheetor on a rock and leaves to find Rampage. However, it's Rampage who attacks Depth Charge, but Depth Charge takes the fight into the air, while Rampage blasts Depth Charge, bringing down the battle on the beach and instead gets impaled on a stalagmite. The fight continues while Optimus meets Cheetor, who tells him about the Depth Charge. Rampage tries to throw a missile at Depth Charge, but the Maximal causes Rampage to blow up by clogging up the nozzle. Rampage further gets an unfair advantage when Quickstrike shows up and attacks Depth Charge. Ultimately, Optimus arrives and removes Quickstrike from the equation. Rampage also escapes, while the Maximals take Manta into the Ark for repair. Optimus explains to his friends that Depth Charge is the sole survivor of Colony Omicron, which was obliterated by Rampage. Depth Charge caught the monster and petitioned the High Council to extinguish its spark, but with the High Council sending away Protoform X with Axelon, surely Depth Charge is furious. When Depth Charge wakes up, he spares no time to show how disappointed he is with Optimus Primal. Despite the requests, Depth Charge refuses to be a part of the Beast Wars. His rude behaviour surprises his fellow Maximals, but the future may force him to rethink as Rampage destroys Starhopper, who was parked underwater. Changing of the guard. Rhinox finds it difficult to work out the Autobot technology, and Optimus Primal comes up with the plan to somehow obtain the old force field model Sentinel from the wreckage of Axelon. As there is still no sight of Depth Charge, the Maximals now rely on a subaquatic stealth vessel developed by Blackarachnia. It appears the Maximals still don't trust her, but have learned to work with her. Optimus manipulates Rattrap to pilot the vessel, and Silverbolt carries it to the river. However, once inside the river, Rattrap starts enjoying the ride and finds himself in an aquatic wonderland until he comes across the wreckage of Axelon. Rattrap tries retrieving the Sentinel program when he gets attacked by the Crabbot Rampage. Fortunately for Rattrap, Depth Charge appears out of nowhere and rescues Rattrap. While Rattrap gets working, Depth Charge and Rampage get into another fight. Rattrap finishes and escapes, while shockwaves from the battle cause Axelon to trip and fall over the fighting bots. As Rattrap comes out of the water, Silverbolt carries him towards the Ark, but once again, he gets shot by Waspinator, causing Silverbolt to drop Rattrap. The Sentinel falls out of Rattrap's grasp, and Waspinator collects it while Quickstrike attacks the Maximals. However, Quickstrike soon gets crushed by Rampage. Depth Charge uses an Energon dagger similar to Megatron's use in Bad Spark. The Maximals steal back Sentinel, but Inferno stops their triumph midway. Depth Charge also hears the sound of the explosion and finally leaves to help his faction. But it just so happens at the wrong time, as the three Maximals crash into each other, letting Inferno steal Sentinel. Later, at the Maximal base, Depth Charge gets an earful from Rattrap and Optimus for his ill-timed action, and yet he is finally inducted into the Maximals for saving Rattrap. Meanwhile, at Darkseid, a change of guard happens as Megatron installs Sentinel to protect his base. Feral Scream, Part 1. It's another dark, stormy night straight out of a gothic novel when Optimus Primal and Cheetor battle Megatron and Waspinator for a stasis pod. Cheetor ignores Optimus's advice and shoots at the stasis pod, which hits a rock, and Optimus falls. The rock slide damages Optimus, but Depth Charge arrives to help out of nowhere. Optimus leaves to repair himself, and Depth Charge leaves to find Rampage, while Cheetor is left behind and on standby. The evil leader takes the help of his Igor, aka Waspinator, to infuse Dinobot's DNA with Rampage's half a spark and give life through a Transmetal driver. Just as the evil Dinobot 2 Transmetal is born, Depth Charge arrives. Cheetor also joins the party, which results in a thrilling fight. However, it ends badly for Cheetor, who retrieves the Transmetal driver and tosses it to Depth Charge but gets fried up in the electrical interface. This incident causes another explosion, and Depth Charge also ends up with a piece of Cheetor's skin. Depth Charge returns to base and informs Optimus about Cheetor's apparent death. He then scans the driver and finds that it's of alien nature but altered by Megatron. Blackarachnia spies on Depth Charge, and when he drops the Transmetal drive, Blackarachnia retrieves it. Optimus feels guilty and responsible for Cheetah's death, but the boy has survived. In the Predicon base, Rampage gets furious over sharing his spark with Dinobot 2, but the close teases the spark, causing Rampage to feel pain. When Dinobot 2 is sent to retrieve the Transmetal driver, Depth Charge senses the Rampage spark. The Maximal gets captured and interrogated by the Predicon troops when something sinister suddenly attacks them. The dark and terrifying Catbot saves Depth Charge from the Preds as Quick Strike is torn to bits and pieces while Rampage is blasted away. Megatron randomly shoots at Waspinator, but he gets spun. The dark and mysterious creature approaches Depth Charge but leaves as soon as Optimus arrives. Optimus might have an inkling about the identity of the new bot as he mentions it to Rhinox. Later, the alarm at the gate sounds as an extremely damaged Cheetor arrives in front of the Ark and passes out. Feral Scream, Year Part 2. The episode starts off with Cheetor sleeping peacefully and Optimus Primal checking up on him. Optimus further reveals that Cheetor refused to use the CR chamber. Cheetor suddenly starts experiencing a nightmare as a strange tail-like appendage emerges from his chest. In his dream, all the Maximals except Optimus and Depth Charge tease and mock Cheetah. He transforms into the dark, mysterious creature from the previous episode and breaks out of his quarters. The creature shoves away Rattrap and escapes the Ark, but Rattrap believes the beast has devoured Cheetor. As mutant Cheetor roams in the forest, his feral cry reaches Megatron. Megs deduces that Cheetor has upgraded to a Mutate 2 version and orders Waspinator and Dinobot 2 to obtain Cheetor. The premises are similar to a werewolf story, as the mutant transforms once more and reverts to Cheetor waking up in the middle of the forest with a vague memory of what happened. Meanwhile, Silverbolt and Blackarachnia return to base after failing to trace Cheetor. Silverbolt gets jealous about Blackarachnia's concern for the cat, while Optimus interrogates Depth Charge about what actually happened to Cheetor. He quickly surmises the events and outcomes. Waspinator and Dinobot 2 locate Cheetor in a cave, and Dinobot 2 volunteers to catch him. Waspinator tries to be a leader and stops Dinobot 2, but the clone slices him up. However, Cheetor has left and turns up at the Maximal base. As he lies about taking care of the monster, Optimus takes Cheetor to find the remains of the monster. While walking through the forest, Optimus tries to make Cheetor confess what's happening to him, but before he can admit the truth, Dinobot 2 attacks, and Optimus lurches forward, taking the shot. It triggers Cheetor to turn back into his Transmetal 2 form. He takes out Waspinator, who appears just behind him. Cheetor again transforms into the monstrous cat as he tangles with the Dinobot in his beast form. Soon, Rattrap and Silverbolt arrive, making Dinobot escape before being caught. Optimus transforms and reaches out to Cheetor to help him accept his newest transition. As Cheetor permanently phases into the Transmetal 2 stage, Optimus picks him up in an embarrassing gorilla hug. Later, at the base, Blackarachnia deliberately flirts with Cheetor, who admires his newest appearance in the mirror. Proving grounds. The Maximals examine Blackarachnia's insides to understand Tarantulas' programming that made her a Predicon, but Rattrap's suspicion and Cheetor's crush drive her mad. Afterward, Rhinox informs Optimus Primal that it will be difficult to change her core into a Maximal. Blackarachnia overhears and gets frustrated at still not being accepted by the Maximals. She leaves on her own when Dinobot 2 watches her secretly and follows. Into the wild, Blackarachnia examines a butterfly while reflecting on her own condition. She notices Dinobot spying on her and starts stalking him. A game of spying and stalking begins, with Blackarachnia trapping Dinobot the 2 in her webbing, but he frees himself and leaves after insulting the arachnid. Back at the Maximal base, Silverbolt stops Rattrap from playing a video game so that he can find his girlfriend. Silverbolt is a bit heartbroken to find Blackarachnia in the Predicon territory, but pleads with Rattrap not to inform Optimus of the same. Meanwhile, Dinobot 2 is aware of the fact that Blackarachnia is still stalking him and takes his chances to lure her into an area where Megatron has jammed all Maximal communication. Dinobot 2 uses a hologram for his plan and succeeds in trapping Blackarachnia. However, she shoots back, and although Dinobot 2 is able to dodge the first attack, the spider manages to get a hit with her second one. Blackarachnia tries to call Silverbolt for aid and finds the line jammed while the Transmetal 2 energies repair the damages she inflicted on the Dinobot. Rattrap's game gets interrupted once more when Optimus inquires about Blackarachnia and Silverbolt. Rattrap lies, while Optimus realizes both must be in the jamming zone and leaves to find them. Silverbolt's doggy nose helps him find Blackarachnia, and he also senses that Dinobot 2 is after her. Dinobot 2 attacks the duo and holds Silverbolt at the laser point. Blackarachnia shoots at Silverbolt so that Dinobot 2 cannot blow his head off. She then offers to partner up with Dinobot 2 so that they can take over Megatron. Silverbolt overhears the conversation and wakes up. He uses Dinobot 2's fallen hologram machine to dupe the clone, and Blackarachnia launches the final attack, making Dinobot 2 fall off the cliff. However, a simple misunderstanding leads to Silverbolt and Blackarachnia having a lover's tiff. Optimus arrives and finds them both knocked out. He clears the misunderstanding and assures Blackarachnia that changing her core would be completely her choice. A satisfied Blackarachnia hitches a ride on Silverbolt as the trio heads home. Go with the flow, it's a sweet start, as we see Cheetor playing with the hominid kids Chak and Una while trying to teach them self-defense. Rattrap joins them and mocks Cheetor, who teaches the kids about basic physics and language at his own expense. However, what they seem to ignore is the arachnoids crawling all over. It turns out that Megatron and his gang have been using the arachnoids to keep a watch. The Predicons are, in particular, busy with assembling a new weapon to kill the Maximals. They have installed a bipolar Energon source, which makes it difficult for them to go near the machine to finish up other tasks. Once again, the ever-enthusiastic Fusor Predicon bears the brunt of the experiments. At this point, the devious Tarantulas suggest employing the somewhat educated proto-humans for the task. Soon, Inferno and Waspinator attack the kids and the Maximals. Despite their best efforts, Waspinator abducts Una from right in front of their eyes. Cheetor radios Optimus to tell him about what transpired, and he sends Depth Charge along with Rattrap to rescue the child. As for Una, she proves a menace for Waspinator as she beats him all the way to the Predicon base. On the other hand, Megatron fires disruptor rays at the scouting Maximals, who crash lands into the forest. Even at low power, it affects the Preds, and Megatron has to shut it down. On the other hand, Rattrap leaves Depth Charge to fend for himself and rushes off to rescue Una. Speaking of Una, the girl proves difficult to manage, even for Megatron. She somehow manages to build a crude shield for the Predicons and installs the stabilizer crystal. Rattrap arrives at the base, and Megatron orders Tarantulas to get rid of the child. As for now, Una drops a large piece of machinery on Tarantulas, but as she starts to fall, Rattrap catches her and escapes the lair. The comedic duo Inferno and Waspinator follow. Rattrap and Una arrive where Depth Charge is still stuck. They help him out and slide him towards the river, enabling Depth Charge to transform into the Manta. As the Predicon pursuers arrive, Una and Rattrap get on Manta's back. Una throws mud at Waspinator's face, which makes him crash on Inferno, and both fall on Dinobot 2. However, they are still not out of danger as Megatron switches on the disruptor cannon, and even the Maximals inside the Ark prepare themselves at the battle station. The cannon backfires as it turns out Una has stolen the stabilizer crystal, probably because she found it pretty enough to be a hair accessory for her. Crossing the Rubicon, Blackarachnia finally gets onto her grand plan of transforming herself into a Transmetal, but the procedure is interrupted by the ever-protective boyfriend Silverbolt. The Dogbird detects the energy surge on Blackarachnia and pulls her out of the machine. However, as a side effect, she short-circuits. When Blackarachnia is put under examination at Ark, Rhinox finds out that the shell programming Tarantulas had installed in her is starting to degrade and will turn her into a lunatic and erase her core consciousness. Rhinox suggests removing the shell, but it's an operation he has never done before. Blackarachnia spends a private moment with Silverbolt while Rhinox and Optimus Primal prepare for the surgical procedure. She soon short-circuits again, and Silverbolt rushes her to Dr. Rhinox. Blackarachnia agrees to go through the procedure, but before that, she transfers the Ark's access code to the only reliable character, Optimus. As the procedure begins, Tarantulas gets an alert, and he informs Megatron. However, Megs takes the news well, as Optimus obtaining the access code is part of another of his convoluted schemes. Soon enough, Meg's minions attack the Maximal base, and while Rhinox and his assistant Silverbolt works on the unconscious Blackarachnia, the rest heads out to engage the Predicons. In this brilliant surgical or electrical procedure, we see Rhinox diffusing an energy surge affecting Blackarachnia's core consciousness. However, he is unable to defuse the second one as Tarantulas fires a rocket, shaking up the base. As the core consciousness and spark of Blackarachnia goes out, Silverbolt leaves to get his revenge. The Preds leave, making Rattrap and Cheetor believe they won, but Optimus realizes something is wrong. Rhinox comes out bearing the sad news. The Maximals regroup inside and mourn Blackarachnia's death when they realize Silverbolt is gone. Silverbolt gets into a fight with Tarantulas while Rampage waits to take out the Fusor himself. At the same time, the Transmetal drive levitates on its own and approaches Blackarachnia's body. Silverbolt subdues Tarantulas, but Rampage tries to kill him instead. The Howler is saved when Blackarachnia arrives in her new Transmetal vehicle avatar. She transforms and takes down the Rampage before taking Silverbolt back to base. Blackarachnia explains how she survived and got turned into a Transmetal. Finally, the lovers reconcile and kiss, sending sparks for everybody to watch. Master Blaster, Megatron, is back with another horrendous idea to win the Beast Warriors. He appoints Waspinator to blow up Silverbolt, who is patrolling outside the gates of Ark. When Optimus Primal, Rattrap and Cheetor arrive outside, Waspinator leads his non-existent troop and gets swatted by Optimus. However, this was a ruse to dart Optimus Primal with a device that let Tarantulas infect and control Optimus Primal's spark. Optimus Primal orders all the Maximals to return to the base, and we suspect it's to take them down. When Blackarachnia returns to the base, she finds the Ark under darkness, and her spidey sense tells her something is wrong. She is soon picked up by Optimus, who is now physically controlled by Quickstrike. Megatron and his troop appear out of the darkness and reveal how they have used Optimus to catch the rest of the Maximals, except for Depth Charge, who is still out there somewhere. Meg sends Dinobot 2 to find and finish Depth Charge, while Rampage is appointed to finish off Blackarachnia. However, Blackarachnia uses her new telekinetic powers to knock out Rampage. Megatron tries to obtain the Ark access codes from Optimus, but Optimus has ensured that only Maximals can obtain them. Megatron and Quickstrike make Optimus open the Ark for Megatron, who finds the dormant body of the original Decepticon Megatron. It's not a surprise that Megatron was a bit jealous of Transmetal 2 Optimus. However, the outcome is a bit different altogether. As Megatron convulses in pain, Quickstrike throws Megs into a lava pit under the order of his real boss, Tarantulas. Quickstrike gives Tarantulas access to Teletrain 1C, the system controlling the Ark. Tarantulas then sets the Ark to auto-destruct, while Quickstrike leaves to destroy the captured Maximals. Meanwhile, Blackarachnia gets rid of Inferno and sneaks inside the base, whereas as Tarantulas tries to leave, he is confronted by Megatron 3.0, or Transmetal 2 Red Fire Dragon. Megs burns the spider and tosses it away, but Tarantulas survives. On the other hand, Blackarachnia makes Quick Strike's control machine and Optimus fall against each other. This helps Optimus to get rid of Quick Strike's control. Optimus and Blackarachnia rush off to save the Ark. However, Megatron appears to stop Optimus and engages in a dramatic and spectacular fight. Simultaneously, Blackarachnia saves the Ark just seconds before the blast. The fight between Optimus and Megatron continues until the rest of the Maximals finally arrive and force Megatron to leave the Ark. Although the Ark is saved for another day, Optimus fears that it's time they finish the Beast Wars. Other victories. The aliens are back in the midst of Beast Wars. As two entities discuss their failed experiment on Earth, they merge the bodies of Tigatron and Airazor to create a new Transformer. The aliens possess the body and leave for Earth while their sparks follow. On Earth, Megatron has set a trial for the traitor Quickstrike and Waspinator is in the defense, while Dinobot 2 and Rampage are on the jury, making for an unfair proceeding. It's all play and games for Megatron, as with a wig and all. He looks quite the judge, but before he can pass the verdict, the sensors inform him about the alien energy that's approaching Earth and is on a collision course with the Predicon base. Elsewhere, Tarantulas get the same notifications, while the Maximals also detect the surge. Megatron switches on the Sentinel program and orders his troops to fire, but it appears ineffective against the alien anomaly, and instead, the Sentinel shield fails. Megatron and Preds have no other way than to abandon the ship as the ball of light crashes on the base and destroys it. Rattrap rejoices at the destruction, but the rest of the Maximals are apprehensive about it. The alien visitor emerges from the crater and introduces himself as Tigerhawk, the emissary of the Vok, the aliens. There were different ideas about the origin and goal of the Vok. Bob Forward saw the Vok as ultimate life forms that wanted to advance the human race, while co-writer Larry DiTillo envisioned the Vok as a swirling mass of life created by transformer reproduction that devoured mechanical life itself. Other ideas had the Vok as time manipulators, originators, and even collaborators. However, the true origin has never been shared since the planned 4th season, which revealed everything about the Vok and Tarantulas, was cancelled. Tigerhawk attacks Megatron for his felonious entanglement with the time stream, while Optimus Primal points out that killing Megatron would mean obliterating the original Megatron's spark, which will again destroy the time stream. He sends Cheetor to assist Megatron, and Rattrap is disappointed. However, Cheetor is incapacitated by Tarantulas' cyberweb, while Tigerhawk defeats Megatron. Optimus arrives at the spot and stops Tigerhawk from killing Megatron, but the emissary doesn't like interruption and buries Optimus underground. Tarantulas attacks Tigerhawk and takes him back to his lair for nefarious purposes. Simultaneously, Tigatron and Airazor visit Cheetor in his dreams, and the sparks of his ex-teammates merge. Cheetor wakes up, frees himself, and follows the spark, which leads him to Tarantulas' lair. Tarantulas gloats about his plans to remove the alien inhabitants from Tigerhawk and use him as his minion to destroy the Maximals. Meanwhile, Tarantulas will destroy the Ark. Tigerhawk notes that this will disrupt the time stream and finish off Tarantulas, but the Spider informs Tigerhawk that he and the Tripredacus Council have separate origins from Autobots and Decepticons, which will enable them to rule the universe. So you see, this is one more story we are deprived of. As Tarantulas starts retrieving the Vok, the two entities exit Tigerhawk and enter Tarantulas. The extraction machine also accidentally hits Tarantulas, blowing him off and killing all three. Cheetor arrives at the prime moment and rescues the unconscious Tigerhawk before the lair blows up. Optimus too emerges from the ground and finds the two cats unconscious. Cheetah wakes up and they witness the spark enter Tigerhawk. Reunited, the Maximals note the changes in each other and head for home, while Megatron watches from afar. Nemesis, Part 1. The Maximals have won for now, thanks to Tigerhawk. Optimus Primal reads from the Covenant of Primus, and believes the arrival of the Transmetal Fusor is a divine prophecy to win the Beast Wars. But they must the Predicons first. The Predicons, on the other hand, are getting disappointed with Megatron. The ever-loyal Inferno promises to find his queen, Megs, a new colony, and Megatron orders him to take Waspinator and Quickstrike for the same. Meanwhile, Megatron takes Rampage and Dinobot 2 to search the remains of Tarantulas' lair. Dinobot 2 finds a hatch to an underwater tunnel, and when they investigate it, Megatron's greatest desire is fulfilled. In this portion, Megatron calls Tarantulas Unicron's spawn. Bob Forward wanted this to be an insult, but fans took it in the literal sense, and the comic Primeval Dawn made it canon. Silverbolt and Depth Charge notice Waspinator, Quickstrike and Inferno leave. They don't heed Optimus's command and find the hatch and a bomb, which explodes. Silverbolt gets severely damaged, but Blackarachnia and Cheetor escort him back to base. Elsewhere, Inferno and the gang arrive outside the proto-human colony to capture it. Quickstrike agrees with the prospect of destroying and killing, while Waspinator refuses, as he is fed up with always being bossed around and blown up. Waspy quits, and quite animatedly. So yes, Inferno again blows him up, while Una finds his head and clubs it. Inferno and Quickstrike wage war on the humans, who now know better, and are equipped enough to fight back. Megatron and Dinobot 2 travel underwater and come across the humongous Decepticon warship Nemesis. Optimus Primal, Tigerhawk, and Depth Charge search through the tunnel and learns about Megatron's discovery. He calls in the base for preparation, shutting Rattrap's mirth. Optimus explains that Nemesis is a ship that shot down the Ark and crashed on Earth. Beast Wars is famous for naming the unnamed Decepticon warship from the Transformers 1984. Nemesis was also going to be a 3-part episode, but it eventually became a 2-part segment due to various constraints. Optimus sends Depth Charge to take care of the situation, as he is the only one who can fight underwater, while Optimus and Tigerhawk fly above the location. Aboard the Nemesis, Megatron and Dinobot 2 discover that Tarantulas had repaired the ship and installed a transwarp cell and also a Predicon control system. Megs also comes across a copy of the Covenant of Primus. Meanwhile, outside, Rampage appears and engages Depth Charge. The duo fights with Energon crystals, and Depth Charge succeeds in impaling Rampage's spark, causing Dinobot 2 to writhe in pain while old Dinobot's face briefly flashes over. This could have been explained by the missing episode, Dark Glass. The explosion kills both Rampage and Depth Charge. Optimus misinterprets the wavefront as the destruction of Nemesis and informs it to the base, but soon, Depth Charge's parts come up on the surface of the water. The somber mood of the Maximals is further worsened when the Nemesis emerges from the ocean and rises up in the air. Nemesis. Part 2. Aboard the Nemesis, Megatron unleashes his wrath on Earth, gunning down everything within his sight. Optimus Primal and Tigerhawk try to retort, but to no avail, so Tigerhawk instructs Optimus to gather the rest of the Maximals. Meanwhile, Dinobot 2 is experiencing changes since the other half of his spark has experienced its demise. Tigerhawk manages to damage several decks of the Decepticon ship with his extraordinary powers, leaving Megatron with a fusion cannon. Although Tigerhawk gives his all to fight back the laser, it ultimately destroys him, and Optimus bangs his head in grief and desperation. Megatron then heads for the proto-human colony, and as memories of the original Dinobot return, the clone tries to stop Megatron from killing the humans. Megatron ignores him and fires down, killing Inferno and Quickstrike. According to Bob Forward, Tigerhawk was created because Hasbro ordered toys, but when Hasbro changed their mind, Tigerhawk had to be killed off. The toys were out anyway. Back at the Ark, the Maximals rally to bring the Ark online to combat the Nemesis. At Optimus's behest, they also gather all equipment, ammunition and stuff within the ship. The initial plan for this episode was to activate the 3 Decepticons' cone heads, Ramjet, Dirge and Thrust, so that they would fight with the Beast Warriors. But again, time constraints led to the idea being scrapped. While Rhinox and Blackarachnia struggle to restore the Ark's power, the Nemesis arrives for an attack. However, Dinobot 2 points out that the ship is currently low on power and needs to recharge before another attack. When suddenly Optimus enters Nemesis and fights Megatron, we can see Dinobot's sly smile. Meanwhile, the power returns to the Ark, but burns out instantly, dashing all hopes for the Maximals' survival. Well, until Dinobot 2 sends a message to the Maximals about an Autobot shuttle stored deep within the Ark. Rhinox rushes and pilots the shuttle, while Megatron orders Dinobot 2 to fire the fusion cannon. As Dinobot 2 refuses, Megatron takes the charge in his own hand, but Rhinox arrives first. The Maximal rams onto Nemesis's bridge and flies away with Megatron. The Nemesis goes up in flames, and although Optimus Primal escapes in time, Dinobot 2 bids him goodbye before dying. The Beast War is finally won, and sometime later, the Maximals take the shuttle to jet off for Cybertron, with Megatron tied up to the hull. A deleted scene would have featured the Maximals restoring the original Megatron's spark back into his body before taking back Beast War's Megatron. As for the proto-humans, they celebrate their new leader, Waspinator, with the remains of Quickstrike and Inferno. Waspinator finally gets the happy ending he deserves. Marvelous verdict. As we end this beastly affair, let's just say it was magnificent and spectacular, considering it was one of the pioneering CGIs. The mind-blowing designs of the Beast Warriors looked great, but the music and pace made Beast Wars a terrific watch. The plot spanned various arcs, while at the same time maintaining the Maximals versus Predicons status quo. We will go out on a limb and say there's not a single boring episode, but that's just us. What do you think is the best episode of the series? If you appreciated our effort in bringing you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more.